Yeah. Okay. Well, we're live. The whole world
All
gets to
right.
see your fresh eyeliner game.
I know. I put it
Look at
on a
you.
Thursday for this. I'm excited.
On a Thursday, you only dress up on the weekends or Sundays
I
or
only typically dress up when I'm either filming content or doing client calls, and Thursday's not a client call day. So you guys are getting the full eyeliner experience right now.
what? Yeah. So this is Donata, the lovely Donata White.
What's up?
We go back, right? Like, how long? It's like almost like a decade, right?
More than that, unfortunately for us and our aging process. I want to say it was, when did we get to school? 2010. So like
I
maybe the
was I was
following year.
class of I was class of '06. I graduated high school in
Oh, you're right.
'06.
You're right. You're right. Okay, 2010 is when we graduated. 2010 is when we graduated college. So we must have met in like '07.
Mm-hmm. We were just wee children then. Like we didn't know I was gonna become I didn't know it, but I was destined to become an accountant at that time and then hate it.
I kind of did a full circle thing because I was in journalism school. Then I switched to law school track the following year, went to law school, became a lawyer, and now I'm back to content. So I guess
Yeah,
I had it
so
right the first
that's
time.
here's a mistake that I made before. We had Todd Brown on the podcast as the last guest, and there are people who like him. I figure, he speaks for himself. But then I'd have folks, and there are people getting in the game, marketing and content. They're like 14. They have no clue. Like Todd Brown's like a dinosaur to them. Like I don't know this Todd Brown guy, but he sounds smart.
what's
so
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 what's so
so
funny to me
tell.
about that is like, you remember when we were in school, social media was just becoming a thing.
Mhm.
And we were kind of like born in the dark, like we grew up with it and had it since its inception. Instagram was like a totally different thing back then. But then like, I've received comments now that I'm in the game over a decade, like basically implying that I'm too old to be there. And I'm like, sir, I've been doing this
Yeah.
for longer than you've had a degree. So I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, the truth is though, that was the thing. Like I
Mhm.
was at orientation in, I guess if I graduated May of '06, I was at orientation, I guess, in May of '06 or
Yeah,
June or
sometime that
sometime
summer. Yeah.
immediately after. And I remember because I had a Lenovo laptop and it was like it was a big square monitor. It wasn't like the sort of more lean monitor
Not
yet.
widescreen. Yeah.
And I remember there were two conversations that I had. We were in the student center. We went to at UNC Chapel Hill, and people said to me, there are two things that stuck in my brain. One, this has Bluetooth. And my first thought was, what the hell is Bluetooth? Like, I had no, I gotta figure. I was like, I'm gonna go back and figure this out to go ask someone. And the
Yep.
second thing that happened to me, this happened on the bus, and I was still using
Okay.
the Motorola Blue phone, flip phone. It wasn't a
Yep.
Razor yet; it was just a Motorola flip phone. And
Yep.
a
I
girl
remember
said
them.
to me, she said, "Add me on Facebook." And that was the other question I had. I said, "What the hell is Facebook?" Right? I
Yep.
was like, "What the hell is Facebook?" And at this time, you had to have a .edu email address to
Yep.
use Facebook.
The marketers
So,
hadn't come in and ruined it yet.
marketers, we ruin everything. We
I
ruin
know, we
everything.
ruined everything.
So, like, that's the truth, though. We grew up with this stuff,
Mhm.
and like we had at least. I don't think I was mature until I was like 28, and that's a stretch. It's probably more like 31. But like I at least had like a sense of self, even though it was warped and dumb. But like I at least had some sort of sense of self. Like, so for instance, I went out on a couple of dates with a 24-year-old recently. And so like you're saying, like I sort of understand where social media fits into my world.
Mhm.
And I've actually said this before, like if it isn't advertising something, why do you post anything on social media? I'm detached, like because this girl was about 24, and I kind of witnessed like firsthand this sort of real world like stickiness of like Instagram and TikTok. I know a dude who's 32 who can't stop scrolling TikTok, and it's like, bro, dude, are you okay? Like he's
I mean,
like,
it's literally designed for that. It's pretty genius if you're, the ones advertising on it, but it's designed to do that to you.
what I think is kind of crucial about that comment? Like it's
What?
designed to do this to you, right? Like it's
Mhm.
designed to do this to you. Everybody at this point is aware of that to like a
Mhm.
very like intimate level. We all know
Yep.
this. That's what I think is crazy. And it reminds me of copywriting. Like if it works so well, like if the design is so pure and honed in, even if you're aware of it, you're still powerless. Like we
Mhm.
know this shit is designed to like hijack our brains and make us crazy.
Right.
And yet everybody like so again, like I got around like a mid-20s-year-old girl for a little bit, and I was at the gym today, and there's two racks, and I was in one rack doing
Mhm.
deadlifts. There was a girl in the adjacent rack doing squats. And
Right.
sure enough, she did her set of squats. And then, oh God, that lightning just scared the shit out of me.
Well, you're
She
in
did,
Florida, so it's about
yeah.
that time of
So,
day.
yeah, but like, sure enough, though, she poses and like throws her selfie on. And, I'm right beside FAU,
Right.
Florida Atlantic University. But
Right.
it's just kind of wild. And I've talked to some dudes who are like trying to date and stuff like that. And I've discovered that your Instagram is now your I don't want to call it a business card, but it's like the
Right.
equivalent. Like whenever you meet someone, let's say in the '90s, you give them your business card, and
Right.
you want to have like an impressive title on there and like a really solid card stock, and people are like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
must be somebody." That's what your Instagram handle is now. Like they're
Yep.
like, "Am I going to talk to this motherfucker again? Let me see." No, serious. I'm
Or
serious.
for
Like,
the first time. Or for the first time.
yeah.
Like, am
I
I
mean,
going to talk to this person at all?
that shit comes up. That shit comes up. And
Yep.
again, like I have been sort of detached from that, just kind of been like a hustler, grinder. I'm just one, I don't want to call it a generation. It's just like I'm like 5 years removed from that culture, but it's so powerful. It's kind of wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in social media day in and day out. We kind of just dove right into things, but for reference, for anybody listening, I own a social media marketing agency. So this is what we do all day long. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them, all day long for all of our clients. We're generating client content all day long, our own content all day long. So I'm in it, in it, in it. And not only is it necessary to kind of have a healthy perspective about its like place in your life, not only just social media, but devices in general, because you're literally attached to them all day long. I've got two screens in front of me and one in my hand at all times. But it's it's very interesting to see the many, many ways it's being used, and a lot of them unintentional. A lot of them are unintentional, and it's just so shocking to me that something so powerful is being used just by accident a lot of times, even if people who are doing it well.
It's such as unintentional.
Like people, like you said before, somebody who's kind of just posting to post and doesn't really have a goal with it. Content creation is no joke. It's not a small thing. It takes time, and whether the amount of thought you're putting into it is very little, like a selfie at the gym, or a lot, like when we're generating like graphics and educational content for our clients, it still takes time. So what are you taking time out of your day for? And then on the user end, there's people who don't curate what they're consuming. They just consume anything the internet feeds to them. And it's wild to me because you'll see comments on really good posts that really just landed at the wrong user, like landed on the wrong screen, and people will be making all kinds of crazy comments about like, this is so stupid, or I hate this, why am I seeing this, I don't care. Ma'am, it's your fault. You're clicking and commenting on things that you don't care about, and the algorithm thinks that now you want to see more of it. So it's like this totally unintentional use of it on both ends. It's wild to me.
It's funny, like what you just said, like they don't understand. Again, like we know so much about this, and then yet people are so dumb in how they interact with it. So, like, if you don't like the post, the best thing that you can do is minimize the on-screen time that it
Mhm.
occupies on your device, because it's ticking the seconds up, and it's like, oh, this guy
Right.
stopped here, so we're going to serve them more of this. Then you stop, you put an angry face, and then you
And then
leave
you
like a
comment.
4-paragraph comment about how much you dislike this. The algorithm, dude,
It's
it's
just going to show you more of it.
talking about stuff like this actually reminds me of do you meditate?
I I used to be really good about it. I'm not so much anymore, and I'll tell you why. I'm a morning person, and my brain is kind of on in the morning.
Huh?
My husband now works an evening shift, and so I've tried to like slide my schedule to meet his so that we're, hanging out in the morning when he's home, and it's just thrown my whole routine off. But I do appreciate the value of meditation, yes.
Okay, so the reason I brought that up is because talking about the algorithm, like people have often compared our brains to like a computer and stuff like
Mhm.
that, right? But
Yeah,
it's like that. Like the algorithm doesn't know the difference if you're paying attention to something, whether it's this is why outrage is so prevalent, because if you pay attention, the algorithm pours gas
shows
on that
more.
fire.
Yep.
That's the exact same thing in your real actual brains. And that's the whole point of like meditation. The whole point of meditation is where your focus goes, energy flows, or something like
Yep.
that, right? Where your
Yep.
attention goes, energy goes. And your brain
Right.
is that algorithm. So like if you have negative thoughts and you ruminate on those things, it becomes like this weird sort of like,
Cycle.
yeah, it gets like a flywheel and gains momentum.
Mhm.
So I mean, just talking about it, it reminded me of that exact same concept. Like the algorithm doesn't know if you are actually mad at this content. They just know you paid attention to it, and your brain is the same
Exactly.
way. Do you ever
Exactly.
do? Do you ever? Okay, so you're. I meant to like right at the very beginning. That was part of the intro. I was like, all right, let's talk about who Donata is. I brought up Todd Brown earlier, and I was like, well, how did we meet? And then we dove straight into this
Straight
shit.
in, which is not
But
unusual for us, I don't like.
right. But like I want to kind of back up and I want to give some
Okay.
background on you because now we can even throw this manifestation shit in there. So you coach people in like you coach people. Do you ever
Yes.
sort of tell someone like your limiting beliefs is I mean, you got to, especially with like pricing, right? You talk about limiting beliefs and your stupid brain is messing everything up for you.
Here's the thing with mindset. I find that because I am such a let's back it up even further. Because I'm such a brain heavy conscious thinker type of person, that's how I tend to speak. That's how my marketing messaging tends to come off. So I attract a lot of people who are just diving into how impactful mindset is. And that's fine with me because those people are like generally really more advanced in some other areas. So they're like killing it in business. But typically, when people come to me for business coaching, they're at maybe like low six figures mark, maybe just getting to that six-figure mark, and they're wondering why they're hitting this ceiling. And it's because they're not working on that mindset stuff. And so, as somebody who was frankly crappy at mindset for several years before I like got it, that is something that comes up a lot. But you have to sort of hand it to them gently because they're not ready for like let's quantum leap and let's like they're not ready for the woo woo language. They just need to know, hey, every time you come across this situation, here's what your subconscious brain is doing and here's how you fix it, or here's how you work on it, because it's an ongoing process obviously. But yes, that is something that comes up a lot, and it's I have to sort of beginner level language with it because
Mhm.
people don't generally have a ton of exposure because we're not taught that anywhere, that your mindset is like affecting how your life turns out.
Right. I think there's a couple guys who are on this. I can't tell if everybody is sort of known about meditation and like you talk about the quantum stuff and all that, and
Yeah.
I'm just sort of figuring it out, or if it's just like the people who are successful have already been doing it by accident anyway, and they don't even know what they're doing. They're just doing it. So
Mhm.
like a lot of like the mega guys, like the people who are like 100 millionaires,
Yeah.
I saw this has been popping up on my YouTube like recently in clusters are
Mhm.
these videos about the words that you choose. So
Okay.
I I saw a video like I don't even know who this guy is, and I don't know this channel. It's called Valuetainment, and
Okay.
it's like he had like the thumbnail got me. It says like something something. Don't say I am T and then blank, and I was like, all right, the fuck is this T word? So
Clickbait.
I
Yeah.
click. So I hate it. Like that's what I was saying. Like I'm aware of what's happening to me. I know the thumbnail has me. I'm conscious of the process, but I still,
Mhm.
if it's executed, if the design is executed
Well, you're just like gotta
flawlessly,
click it.
you're like, but I as a marketer consciously say to myself like, fuck, like he's got
Got
me.
me.
Fine, I'll see what the T word is. So I click it, and the thing is like the dude says here's like what he talks to his friends or something from like back home or family members or relatives, and he's like, I hate this word. I'm gonna call it the T word, and then it spells it out on screen, and the T word was tired. I am
Uh-huh.
tired. He's like, every time you say this, guess what? You become
Feel
tired.
tired. Yep.
And then he went into some other stuff that I resonated with, like his family would tell him like, oh, all men are this way or all women are this way.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. One day I want to grow up and marry someone and start a family. I don't want to hear that all women are this way.
Right.
I want to, because it's poison. And I
Right.
remember being a little bit more vigilant about this back in the day. There's another guy, Alex Hormozy, who wrote the book $100 Million Offers. He's the Gym Lord guy.
Okay.
He, again, right at that time, another video pops up, and I think it's clickbait again.
The algorithm, gotcha.
Yeah, but it doesn't suggest that it's about the words you choose. He said, here's why morning routines keep you weak. And so that's not even related to words. So I listened to it, and he's talking like these new in the game entrepreneurs. He's talking to them, and they're saying like, I am an all or nothing guy. I am an anxiety. I am anxious. I am this and this.
Mhm.
He's like, every time you say I am, you're basically programming some
That
shit
into your subconscious. Yep.
that is or is not real, and you're making it real. And he went on this whole tirade, and he was giving examples, and he's like, I hate to even say these examples out loud. And
Yeah.
it's like Robert Kiyosaki, I've been following him since like 2012, and he always says like the words become the flesh, which I think is like something out of the Bible.
Right.
And it's like these mega super successful people with their legs and longevity and like have been doing it forever
for a long time. Yep.
Yeah, they curate the messaging that they're allowed into their like sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because they're so vigilant. Like he was like, it's making me mad just saying some of these lines. But I was like, I need to start maybe doing more of that, like keeping the poison out.
That's step one, I think, is becoming more aware of the messages that you're feeding yourself. And I think going back to your earlier question of like, do these mega successful people just all secretly know about the power of mindset, or were they doing it by accident, or what happened between like normal person and gazillionaire with the mindset? Like, where did it flip? And I think there's an intermediate step that a lot of people can use that I often talk about with my clients, and that's sort of the alter ego effect, which is a book, if you guys have read it. But it sort of takes, so if you've ever listened to Bob Proctor, there's like your environment, there's your conscious mind, and your subconscious, right? So the conscious is the first level. You're aware of what's going on. Subconscious is all of that programming that we just talked about. Bob Proctor actually passed away earlier. I think maybe it was 2021, but his company is still going strong, and we can talk about like longevity and business systems at some point. But building a personal brand and a company off your personal brand and having it last beyond your death, like amazing. But so going back to that, the conscious level is where that switch in programming can start, and you can be intentional about it without having to worry that you've like messed up your subconscious so bad that it can never be changed. So basically what this alter ego thing is you can kind of separate your current self from the future self a little bit and say, what would my 7-figure self be doing right now? What would my 6-figure self be doing right now? And you can kind of take yourself out of the, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I have this to do today. Oh, I am feeling this way. Oh, this is what my bank account looks like. And think about that future version and what he or she or they would be doing right now, and making decisions as that person instead of this current version. And that starts to rewrite all that subconscious while you're doing that consciously on a conscious level, because you're thinking and acting like the future version while you're in the current circumstances, if that makes sense. Try to lay that out in the most like plain beginner type language as I could, but that alter ego thing really helps people get started, I think, with the mindset and the meditation and the messaging and all that we were talking about on that like way, way deep level.
I believe that, and I totally. It's like you're playing a character. Like you get into character, you get into a state, and you say, "This is who I am now." Like,
yeah,
you're
like cosplaying the 7-figure multimillionaire version of yourself, and it it becomes a little fun because you're like, "Oh yeah, what am I gonna do today as my like $10 million business owner self?"
Yeah, exactly. So I I kick myself because I don't want to be like a bandwagoner jumping on like the hot topic, but the hot topic is the hot topic. Have you
Right.
watched any Andrew Tate videos or seen this dude on? I mean, could you avoid him?
I really tried because I know what the algorithm does, and I just don't. I don't want that in my circle because the man is a Looney Tune and also like just wrong about basically everything
Okay.
and so
All
angry all the time. Let alone like let's forget the actual words coming out of his mouth. He's just mad all the time, and I just don't need that negativity in my life. You know what I mean?
Well, all right. So my dad's 59th birthday was this week, and he came to
Right.
visit for the long weekend, which was cool because like his birthday is on 31st and falls on like a Labor Day weekend.
Mhm.
So he's gotten to the 59-year-olds. Okay, he's reaches far and long. So my dad, though, he comes down and he just starts saying this over and over and over. Like it's kind of like he's just heard it enough, and he's he's going, top G. He keeps saying that shit like top G. And then like next thing I'm saying it like all weekend, top G, and we're saying it with like the little accent and everything. We're not so it just becomes like, and it was funny you're talking about the alter ego effect and this idea of like playing a character. So like all weekend, me and dad were just being top G's everywhere we went. We went gambling twice, and so like we're playing blackjack, and a 15 flops out on me, and I got a 15. I got 15 here, and the dealer's got a 10. What are you gonna do? I'm top G. Hit like just bring it. So like it's like that was like every decision we made was prefaced by what would top G do? What would a top G do? So, but then it sort of it colors like all your decision making. And so it's funny that you say that alter ego effect and like programming your subconscious and everything. Even when we were just like joking with it, like, are we gonna get guacamole with this? Like, well, I mean, we could just not get avocado, but are we not gonna get avocado? Top G. Avocado, add that shit. Like $2 extra.
What's so funny about that? And here's why it works so well. We're laughing about it. It's funny. Oh, I was playing top G for the weekend for my dad's birthday. But two things happened. You got out of your head and started playing this character, right? But you were having fun with it. First of all, you weren't worried about the effects of that decision making on your current self. You were just playing that person. Second of all, you experienced life that weekend as that person, right? You didn't have to wait. It was immediate. It was right then you started having the experience of that alter ego. And that's why that's so powerful. Is like once you start acting and making decisions like that person, the circumstances immediately change. It's not like I'll see the fruits of my thought labor in 6 months. It's right then. Like because your experiences and the decisions you're making for right now are affecting your immediate circumstances. So it's like your experience changes right away when you do this.
That's interesting. No, it says, what would my six-figure self be doing, though? Probably watching the Kyle Milligan show.
Probably.
Did not mark.
I'll tell you what, though. A lot of that particular question really got me stuck for a while because I didn't know there was a difference between a service provider and a CEO for the longest time. For like a year and a half. I did not know there was a difference.
Is this the working on your business versus working in your business sort of conversation?
Sort of. It was thinking that because I owned the company, I was automatically the CEO.
What does that mean?
Sorry to hurt anybody's feelings here, but because a CEO role is different from a service provider role. The service provider, you could be a freelancer and make six figures. You don't have to have a team. You could post once a day or 5 days a week or even 3 or 4 days a week on social media. You could get your clients from referrals and from, wherever the heck you're getting them. And you can make six figures if you're priced correctly. Again, pricing is a whole other conversation. And your client service is right and all that. But you're still a freelancer. You're not the CEO of a company. You are in name, but in role you are not, because it's what a CEO does during the day is entirely different. And finally, now that I've shifted into that role over the last year or so, I barely touch client work anymore. My job is more of the big vision for the company? What are we going to be doing in 3 to 5 years? What products are we going to be offering? What are our processes that ensure that every team member makes all of our clients have the same experience when they work with us? What does our company stand for? What are our unique frameworks that we apply to all of our client work? It's bigger vision type thinking and decision making. It has nothing to do with providing the actual client service. So you can call yourself a CEO if you own an LLC, fine, but it's a different role. It's entirely different. And it took me way too long. Like, do not be embarrassed if you don't know about this, because I was in it and didn't know for like over a year. And thankfully the business still grew, but not as fast as it could have.
So I think it's crazy is like, okay, so Tyler just did the little head exploding thing.
Nice. Love that.
So
Thanks,
this
Tyler.
is Tyler actually does our design for us
Nice.
and on the copy squad stuff and all that. And I'm going to venture a guess at why he posted this comment. So whenever you join my team, like the first thing I'm going to tell you is you need to read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber.
Okay.
And the reason being is because I am going to present as a dude who doesn't pitch in, a dude who doesn't like get his hands dirty. I'm not writing emails,
Right.
I'm not doing these certain things anymore. And that's by design, is because I want to be actually an owner, not a self-employed guy who I'm just paying other people to be
Finish the
self-employed
client
with.
work. Yep.
Yeah. So like, this is something that you said it with different words. I use the Michael Gerber sort of like mentality and the framework and the nomenclature that he uses for everything.
Right.
But like, this has been a big thing because I did the Copy Squad YouTube, and I was also a copywriter at publishers, and then I became a manager and started trying to like figure out how to get things more systems oriented. You mentioned Bob Proctor and like having a brand that lives beyond you. If anyone who's been with me since like 2018, 2019, maybe, yeah, into 2020, I think it wasn't until this year that we shifted all of our branding and labeling from Kyle the writer with a little pencil in the background to Copy Squad, because what if I get hit by a bus, and
Right.
the hit by a bus test, the classic. So one of
Right.
the things that we're doing now, we had a live email copywriting class. My email copywriter hosted it last month, and that was really cool because he presents it all. I mean, it's our process. That's another thing. Because I'm not doing anything, I have to take all this and put it into a system or a process
A
that I
system or
can.
process, an SOP that can go out to the rest of the team and they can execute.
So what Cody was saying in his class is exactly what I would have said, because it's like, I told him like, this is how we write emails in the Copy Squad. This is what we do. So it's like multiplying myself. So we're making that concerted effort now where it's not Kyle's Squad. I don't want it to be. That's what this show is now, is like, I'm trying to make that its own business in a box. It's just its own thing, and then I happen to actually work there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I feel like your personal brand and growing your personal brand on social media is like a little bit different from building a legacy business that can last beyond yourself, that has process. Because my personal brand is never going to become unattached from me. Like, if I die, if I get hit by a bus, it's dead, it's gone. That doesn't mean my business has to die. So you making an effort to like have this podcast and post on social media and network with people and all of that, that's all part of your personal brand. Your personal brand can support your business and the other way around. But your personal brand, I almost feel like it's the umbrella. And whatever service-based or even product-based or whatever business you have is sort of something, it's under the umbrella of, Kyle or Donata or whoever. So you need both. But I would say your efforts in the personal brand aren't futile. It's necessary. It's just different.
Yeah, and the thing is, I was listening to I got on an Alex Hormozy kick after I heard that one thing about the words or whatever. I like watched another one of his. And he was talking to Graham
Those
Stephan.
suggested videos.
Yeah. You know the real estate dude, Graham Stephan.
No,
Stevens?
I don't. No.
So Alex and that guy are talking, and he
Okay.
talks about sort of like the evolution of content, where you start off like serving a niche or a market, and then over time you kind of evolve from like serving that niche or market to like sort of like creating for yourself in a way.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And so like I'm almost like relating to this whole thing where it's like I almost felt constricted, and I've talked about this on the last 2 podcasts. I almost feel constricted by the format of being the copy squad guy, where it's like sometimes I want to say fuck, like so there's stuff like that, or like sometimes, like another thing, people on the YouTube channels, they're often looking for the kind of advice that, one, I either laid that out 3 years ago in like 5 different videos, or it is just like the most basic entry level stuff that has at this point in my career has become so blah to discuss. It's like, dude, emails are always DIC and they're about 150 words. Like I can't make any more videos saying that thing. Like I know I've said it like 6 different ways.
It's so funny how similar you and I are, and I think that's why we've been friends for so long, is I've been going through the same thing. I probably about a year ago stopped one-on-one coaching. It was actually probably 2 years ago now. I had my last one-on-one coaching client who was sort of in the beginner, like to 50K, 70K mark. That's who I used to coach. And my prices were reflective of that. And the container was reflective of that, the structure of it, all of that. I had that last person like graduate out of the program, and I just stopped for like 2 years. I did not take a single one-on-one client because I was just so tired of saying the same thing over and over and over again. And we didn't even scratch the surface of what I believe to be true about business and building a legacy brand and the difference between a service provider and a CEO and all those things, because it was just like, okay, how do I post on social media and get more likes? Like it was just so basic and so like, and they also didn't realize how big the questions were that they were asking, because they'd be like, how do I get followers on Instagram? How long do you have? Like,
let's
like
a rant that
Go
that I've done like several times on my channel are, you don't have a real problem. Like the talk about big questions. You call it big questions. I call it you don't have a real problem, which is like the question is, how do I get started in copywriting? Like
open Word on your computer.
Or I mean,
and type some stuff.
So we're actually going to attempt to address this next week. I have another Copy Squad coach doing a new live class, and the topic is how to break into copywriting. And so it is something that is like, but oftentimes the question, how do I get started, is such a unique to you sort of solution. Like I can't even begin to, like, if you ask me a copy question, like you've written a promo, you have a section of copy that's dog shit and you don't know how to transform it into not dog shit.
Like,
I am pretty,
yeah,
I am the dude for that. Like I can take that better than, I would say I'm in the top 1%. I'm top G copy chief. I'm the top 1% of, if you have a bad piece of copy, I probably know better than most of the people on the planet. And I'm talking like people who are sitting in the big publishing houses, because this is another thing that I talk about. I've talked to them. I've worked for them. They still, to this day, they've been in the game 15 years. And I say, so, what made you write this here? And they'll say to me, I just felt right.
Felt like that, yeah.
And I'll talk to the people that try to join my squad and leave them. And they always say, like, that dude doesn't give me any real feedback. He just tells me it sucks. Because a lot of these people are running off their gut intuition, right? Yeah. Which is why I assert that I am top G at giving copy feedback, because I have a reason, a label, a system, and process for literally every piece of feedback I give. Is a reason for it.
Yep. And it's the same with business coaching too. It's like you don't just make random ass decisions. Like, why am I posting on this day at this time? Why am I posting this piece of content? Why am I offering this thing that I'm offering, or this freebie, or what am I trying to do? What is the goal here? Because doing things just to do them and throwing spaghetti at the wall ultimately is a waste of effort, but also just very dumb.
Spaghetti at the wall is like one of the biggest problems people have. And that is, so I had a guy in our inner circle on Tuesday, and he basically asked, one of those questions, like, how do I get good fast? And I was like, there's 2 things that we do in the inner circle. First, Tuesday, we do a sales letter breakdown. The next Tuesday, we do user submission reviews. Then we do a sales letter breakdown, and then user submission reviews.
Mm-hmm.
There is no magic. That is it. You do this every single week until
Mm-hmm.
you are immersed in this language and proficient in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
really just a matter of reps. You just get to a point where
Yep.
you can speak salesmanship.
Yep.
And the spaghetti at the wall system is like, well, I need that new, like, there must be a new technique or tactic. Or the truth.
Nope.
The truth is, the more simple an explanation, the closer to truth it is.
Yep. And I feel like the principles are always the same, especially in business and marketing. The tools change, like, oh, we've got a new platform. The algorithm has changed. Instagram decided it hates photos and wants to be TikTok now. Like the tools change, right? But the principles remain the same. The principle being they want all their users to stay on the app as long as possible, consuming as many ads as possible. So how do we play nice with the algorithm, knowing that? And the copy principles are always the same. This is how people's brains work. So this is how we talk to them to make them do what we want them to do. This is and business the same way. And this is why I hate seeing people coach hop. That was another thing that, I mean, I'm back to coaching now. I don't think I like wrapped that up with a nice neat bow. I do coach clients now, but they're more advanced clients because we're having those more advanced conversations. So I've got the mastermind, and then I've got my one-on-one coaching clients who we're having a higher level conversation now.
Real quick, I know you're going to tell, but like, could you give us like, I want to get like your 10-second, like
Okay.
who goes in the mastermind or whatever.
Sure. So the mastermind is just ladies. So sorry, gentlemen. No dudes allowed.
There goes like 99% of my audience.
Listen, they're not allowed to be coaching clients. They're just, the mastermind is for ladies. Because here's the thing, in business and marketing too, like, hate to say it, but we have to talk a little differently than you guys do. Like, I can appeal to dudes and you can have me on this podcast because I toe the line between like being broy enough to like stand in here and have this conversation, but also not be totally over the line where you're like, this chick's a tryhard, this chick's a pick me. Like, I have to talk differently than you do to get my same message across, right?
I've never heard the pick me. That's new to me.
You've never heard of pick me? It's like a girl that puts other ladies down or like tries to act like one of the guys in an effort to get them to pick her.
A girl? Okay,
no,
I'm sorry.
Because if you're in my mastermind, that's not allowed.
Okay. All right.
So the mastermind is just ladies. That is a group coaching container. So we do group calls, we do co-working sessions, we do virtual retreats, all of those things just for the ladies. For the dudes, it's one-on-one. So, just one-on-one coaching. There's really nothing fancy about it because, again, simple is best. But I hate seeing people coach hop because there is no magic answer. A lot of times what will happen is I see, not my clients, because thankfully my clients know this, but I'll see people online or people in different containers. They'll sign up for a year in somebody's mastermind and they'll say, well, I wanted to get to $1 million and I only got to 600,000. So I'm going to go to a different coach. And then they hop and then they hop and they hop. The problem with that is nobody has the magic answer because there isn't one. And also, your coach now has to start at zero with understanding your mindset patterns and what you've done before and what does your product suite look like and all of that. So you're basically putting your new coach back at zero and hoping that they have some magic wand that's going to wave over your business and double your revenue in the next 12 months. Like, doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, and that's called. I was listening to the word that you were saying. I was waiting for some context clues. Coach hop.
Coach hopping. Yeah.
Coach hopping. Okay. I thought you were saying co-topping, and I was like,
don't coach hop.
Okay,
you know what it is? It's these damn Invisalign. I got Invisalign, and they make my words come out a little funny.
You got really big sparkling white teeth. Good for
Thanks.
you. Good for you.
The Invisalign.
So there was something in that coach hopping thing about like I only got to 600K that resonated with me. Mm-hmm. So like with the copy squad stuff, I think it's crazy the amount of ramp up time. And two things. First, because I vehemently wanted to be a owner operator, not a self-employed guy, I had to basically first start building processes and then teaching people who weren't me how to do it instead of me. Yep. So that also, I think that cuts the speed of it in a quarter. Like there are things that I'm like just shaking to get done in the next 20 minutes that I know I'm gonna have to wait till tomorrow. And it's just like, I don't want to intervene. I want to, because then that defeats the whole purpose.
Yep.
But the other thing is like some of these things have to like run their course. Like we're trying to just set up campaigns for all the Copy Squad products and then like let them run. And then, okay, well, which emails were the worst performers? Like,
Right.
got
And
to
you gotta
pull that one
wait
out,
for the data.
try a new one. And that's not going to happen for another month and a half. And so
Yeah.
the iterations of it and the cycles. So I was really surprised because I'm a top G that it took this long to sort of start getting that momentum going, especially where all the team members are firing
Mhm.
together. And then the other thing is you get sort of, I don't want to, jaded is probably not the word, but
Yeah.
all the marketing rah of like, I just had a $2 million launch after I launched my business 48 hours ago.
God, it makes me
And
want to throw up.
And they always skip the part of like, yeah, but I had like a 300 million person following on like Twitter, and
Right.
like stuff. There's always some sort
There's
of thing that,
always some but that they're not telling you. And I was hoping we would get to this so badly because I am adamant. I will not call my business a seven-figure business until we do seven figures in 12 months. Right? Have we made $1 million? Absolutely, we have. But there are people who would say, I have $1 million business, and they're counting the revenue from day zero,
mhm.
right? Like you're doing six figures a year and you've done this for 10 years. Like, of course you have $1 million business, right?
Yeah.
So, or people will say, I had a $100,000 day. You had a pay in full client who was your client before their contract renewed, and like that was 60,000 of your $100,000. Like there's always a. I mean, you were an accountant, so you know how you know how this works. Like you can
Amortize
make
that
the number,
client.
you can make the numbers say whatever you want them to say.
Yeah.
Like, I could say, oh, I had a $30,000 day. Okay, was it a sales day or a cash day? Was that a sale or cash in the bank? Was how many transactions was that? How long were you trying to get that particular person to convert to a transaction? Like
Mm.
it doesn't account for all the time you put in ahead of time. And now if I say, oh, I had a $50,000 launch, I had a 30K week or whatever, it's because I've been doing this for 5 years full time at this point. Like, it's not because I just randomly bust into the scene and was like, what's up, guys? Hand me your money. Like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
There's always some but. And I think I did a little mini series probably like a year and a half ago where I was like, Donata decodes marketing. When the person says that she went from 0 to 6 figures in 3 months, yeah, well, she's not telling you about the 8 months before that where she made nothing and it just popped in the last three. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The 3-year overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's ultimately comforting because then you're not sitting there on your couch going, well, what's wrong with my business that I'm only incrementally growing? It's all incremental. It all adds up. It all compounds. It's just when do you get to have that big rah-rah moment of like, I had my $1 million month. Like, what?
I first I was cute. The second thing was like I resonate and I understand this so deeply. I even did like I was still living in, I don't want to name the places I live, but I was living two living situations ago. So it was
Right.
probably like 2019. But I did a video because I went to like this beer fest thing in Durham, with the Durham Bowl Stadium. They do like this cool beer fest thing.
Yeah.
So that was a while back. That was a couple years back. And I remember becoming drunk. and like part of my journey from going from sober to drunk was it consisted of like so many like 2 ounces of beer. That's the thing. Like you go like station to station and they give you this cup. It's like this big. It's it's like less.
Right.
They're
You're
not even like
tasting it.
flights of beers. Yeah, you're tasting it.
Well, you had
And I
27 of them. So it's like,
that's it. So I did this video. I'm not even sure if it's still up or not. Tyler probably knows. Tyler removed like 400 like of our YouTube videos. So another, I take little notes so that when I lose my train of thought, beer
nice.
fest.
Beer
Another
fest.
thing about our YouTube thing, like that I found constricting, like it got to a point where I was like, I can't even make content anymore because it'll hurt the channel. Like if I make content, it's going to kill the channel. But like if it doesn't have like an average view duration, if it doesn't have this, if it doesn't have that, doesn't have like if it drops off after like 30 seconds, like we got to cut that video. And it's like, well, fuck. Like it just kind of feels like, I was doing like for like a year just lives every day that were just me sort of ranting and rambling.
Yeah.
This video was one of them, but I really liked it. I'm not sure. It probably doesn't even exist on our YouTube channel anymore. But it was the maybe I'll move all those over to this new channel. It was the 2 ounces to death success approach. So I went to the beer fest thing, and like you said, I was sampling little 2 ounces of beer, and
Yep.
I was like, "Ah, cool." And I did it for like 27 times, and next thing I knew, intoxicated.
Drunk.
Like I
Yep.
didn't see it coming. Right? It kind of caught me off guard.
It popped.
And
Yep.
it popped. I compared this though to the growth of my YouTube channel, where it's like I didn't have a viral video. And I was trying to explain this in the video. I was like, I didn't have a viral video. I simply did a video every single day. And then over time, you know, I had 5,000 subs. Like
People don't want to hear that though.
If you go to
People
my
want the
social
magic.
blade, it's like the most linear trend line of all time. There is
It's
no
beautiful
hockey
to
stick.
me. I'm sure I would love it.
It's just slow and steady production, man.
Love that.
It's
But that's sustainable, right? Like those people are there for your content. So it's like they're going to be there if you keep giving them what you've always given them. It's not like I had a viral video. I've actually had several viral videos and over my 10 years in social media. And the issue with viral is when something goes viral, it's because it's appealing enough to the masses that a lot of people want to share it and talk about it and watch it. But that's usually not specific enough to get you clients. I have a video that has 22 million views on YouTube. It's a hair
Is this
tutorial.
the one when I lived in Charlotte? Like this
The
is
hair
like
tutorial, yep.
and like some like BuzzFeed thing picked it up or something,
BuzzFeed
right?
picked it up and it has 22 million views. And this is back when I was doing like beauty and lifestyle content, right?
Ooh, can we pause there and come back to the BuzzFeed thing? I'm gonna put my note down here. BuzzFeed. We'll circle back. Yeah, let's talk about that evolution, right? Like,
okay.
You started like curling your hair on
most
camera.
Chaotic conversation of all time. Sorry,
that's called a conversation. That's a good conversation. Yeah, podcast with Kyle. Podcast with Cash. Kyle Milligan show. So you started like doing makeup, and you were a lawyer.
And I was a lawyer.
And you didn't have a lot of support. And like, talk about that. Because we're talking about, the real shit. Talk about that nitty gritty of like being a guerrilla marketer or whatever.
Dude, I was just making content so I didn't go crazy, to be honest with you. Because I was, like I said, journalism kid. I was used to just cracking out content constantly. Like I would do like sometimes 3-4 articles a day for class, and then like go home and chill. Like it was just easy for me to just make content. And still to this day, like people will be like, how do you create content so fast? I'm just used to doing it. Another girl, one of the members of our team also went to the UNCJ school as well. And the rest of the team always comments about how fast she is. And I'm like, duh, like that's what they teach you to do. But I was just trying not to go nuts, right? I was trying to talk about something fun. I was trying to like meet new people on the internet and play with makeup and like do my hair and just make videos, learn about video editing. It was a learning process too. So that was fun for me as well, without like sitting at a desk and staring at briefs all day, right? Feeling a little bit creatively starved in the legal world. So I went ahead and started a blog and got creative.
It's so funny because it seems to be a repeating pattern now in this conversation. I was doing something, I got creatively stifled. I started just like you were like a geyser of like just
I was like, I don't like this anymore. I'm doing something else.
Right. Like, I was an accountant. I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna be a writer. And then I was Copy Squad guy. And I don't think I'm done being Copy Squad guy or anything, but it's like I want to do something again. Like
it's an evolution. I call what I call this? The snakeskin getting too tight. So I actually have a term for this because I feel like and I use this with my clients. This is what happens when you coach people for too long, right? Like you end up having like phrases for like every situation. The snakeskin gets too tight, where you outgrow your current circumstances and it gets uncomfortable. And there's only one way out. You can't shrink yourself. You've already evolved past the point of where things are comfortable. So the only way out is to shed your current skin and be born into new circumstances, right? Like, and it's uncomfortable. I'm sure the snake doesn't, I don't know any snakes, but I'm sure they don't love shedding their skin. Like, I'm sure it's pretty uncomfortable for them. But I call that the snake skin getting too tight. Like your current situation hasn't necessarily changed, but you have. And it's so uncomfortable to remain in the same position that you just have to get out and have to do something different.
Isn't it wild though? Because two things, like the uncomfortable, there's two types of people. There's people who are like, they look at that discomfort and they're like, the possibilities,
right.
And then the other people are like, oh God, this is scary. And I
Yeah.
feel like you have like this might be part of that meditation and programming your self-conscious, but maybe we're just lucky to both be like, I just want to create some shit and I don't give a shit. That's the big thing. I don't give a shit. Like I don't give a shit. If fucking nobody watches this podcast, I
Yeah.
actually enjoyed making it. That kind of
Yeah.
mentality. So I wrote novels that were a little bit like I don't know. I was like, my mom's gonna read this, you know,
Jeff
and she
Little?
did. Yeah, right. There was stuff like that, and like, and then I was like, then I'm gonna start a YouTube. I'm gonna teach people how to do copy. You think about that, like, until I became the guy, I wasn't the guy. I was nobody.
Yeah,
Telling
but you
everybody,
were. You just weren't. People hadn't heard about you yet. You were though. You were the guy. You were not
there was.
exposed to the public
Yeah, I guess
sufficiently.
I did have like the cool track record I could use to sort of bolster my confidence. But like you need that, like it's like credit. It's like social credit. It's like China. You got to have that sort of external validation so that you can say like I'm top G, and then you feel confident going around telling everyone that you're top G and that you should listen to me. But it's the same thing. Like this podcast right now, the people who came today, you know, we've had it fluctuate. A couple people, couple nobody, then a couple people, and then nobody. But like the people who came today came to an empty YouTube channel. There's no
Yep.
content. And I'm like, let's fire it up. Like it's just a blank screen.
Let's go. Yep.
Right? Everyone has to start there from the blank slate. They have to start there from nothing. The portfolio is empty. There's nothing to show off. There's no credibility. And you have to just like, you have to make that first like move, and you have to do it. You can say confidently, but I don't feel like I'm confident. I feel like I'm
You have to do
bored.
it anyway.
I feel like I'm just bored. Like I just want to do it. Like I'm, you know, like I'm not doing this because I feel like I want to prove something. I'm doing it because I'm bored. The geyser thing. Like I feel
Just
stifled.
explode. I feel like a slingshot sometimes. We're like getting pulled back, and like someone's gonna let me go at some point. And I'm just gonna fly. But I would actually I'm gonna do a thing. I'm gonna disagree entirely with what you just said. And that is
conflict.
I was scared shitless.
Okay.
Because I'd spent nearly $200,000 to get my law degree. I was in the student debt. Okay, we were paying it off pretty aggressively, but I still had a lot left. And I had being a lawyer is like an important job. You're like a smart person. People think you're accomplished and cool and you've like made it in life. And I was just gonna throw all that away and be like, this shit sucks. This was terrible. And I did not have a lot of support. But I did it anyway. I did it scared. I did it because I knew that doing it was less scary than like doing this for the next 30 years. So like I was scared out of my mind. So I wasn't bored. I was very afraid on all fronts.
So
but go ahead.
But like in terms, yeah, do you have more to add? I don't want to interrupt your story. I'm bad for interrupting stories.
No. You made me lose it, so go for it.
Now I feel worse.
No, my brain's been doing that lately where I'm like, okay, it's gone. It wasn't that important. Don't waste anybody's time with it. I know I need more.
I actually have one of these, dude. I have like 17 drinks here, depending on like which mood I get myself into. Because I don't want to leave. Like I left Braddock here with like just like I gotta get something to drink, and then I disappeared for like 30 seconds, and he like, this sucks. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna bring everything to my desk before we start this one.
Nice.
But so you talked about like we have like a bunch of weird similarities. Almost to a T is how I describe leaving my job at the CPA firm as an accountant. Mm-hmm. Is like I got a master's in accounting. I went to grad school at a prestigious business school. And oh, by the way, I was the first in my family to go to college. So everyone's like, "Oh, you made it! Someone made it out of here, and they were gonna be
first in grad school." Yep.
And then I was like, "I'm gonna fuck this shit," and I was like, "I don't want it.
Peace out. It's terrible."
So I think I've told you my anxiety story the first time. So I don't know if you knew this, but men aren't very good at emotions.
What?
Is this news to you? So I'm sitting on my couch. And this keeps happening to me for like 3 or 4 days. And I'm having trouble like acquiring oxygen. So I eventually go to a doctor and I'm like, dude, I'm in my 20s. Like, when does like adult asthma come on or something? I was like, maybe check me for that or check my levels. And he's like, okay, well, let me ask you some questions. He goes to like a basic rundown, talks about like, well, what do you know, what's your diet like? Do you smoke? Do you drink? What's your job? Your housing? Blah, blah, blah. And then, I sort of like ran it down. I was like, well, I was kind of excited about it to tell him. I was like, yeah, I quit my job and I sold all of my belongings so that I could become a writer.
That doctor went.
He said, you have anxiety. I was like, but I don't feel.
You have feelings.
Yeah, I was like, but I don't feel anxiety. He's like, no, that's not asthma. That's anxiety in your throat. The reason your throat is closing isn't because you have asthma. It's because you're anxious. And I was like, but I don't feel scared. And he was like, yeah, but your body is freaking out. Yep. So I had that same thing. Like, but I didn't know what was happening to me because I'm just like a dude. That's what I was saying. Like, I kind of just, my brain didn't process the fear. My body did.
Your body does. That's the problem.
Yeah. I was just like, I'm bored. I remember though, like you said, what you were scared of was doing this for 30 years. I remember, this is like a true ass story. There's two pieces to it. Robert Kiyosaki really fucked me up because he made me aware. Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, made me aware of like how stupid everything I was doing was. So I catch myself because I remember this moment because I was like, this is like a cartoon. Gray shirt, gray tie, which I hate wearing ties because I have it's all down here, my whole body, just the whole thing. But anyway, the collar on the suits and stuff like rubs my stubble and it rashes. So I always have a rash from like wearing a fucking tie and a fucking suit collar. And I hated that. Mm-hmm. But my shirt's gray. My tie is black with gray stripes. My slacks are gray. And my cubicle is gray. And I'm like, then I had that moment of fear. The fear that I experienced.
My cat.
The fear that I experienced was the same thing. Was like, if I die tomorrow, is that what I did? Like I was scared to death that I would be sitting in that box in like 5, 10, 15, 20 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was palpable. Like that was actual fear. The anxiety thing was nothing compared to that. It was like,
I was looking at the partners in the law firm and realizing they didn't have it any better than I did. They were doing the overnights. They were not seeing their kids. They were riding to work on the damn bus because we were in New York City. I was like, I don't even get to escape public transportation at this point. So listen, when I tell you we were the last stop before the bus went into the city. So we actually lived in a really nice apartment, but there's no way to drive a car. And I get it, like environmental concerns, whatever. But I'm the last person. Sometimes I would have to wait multiple buses because the buses were full before they would go into the city. So I'm standing up, right? Like I'm not comfortably traveling to work. And I had bruises on the sides of my thighs from when the bus would like jostle everybody and my legs would hit the armrests of the chairs. And that was going to be it for the next however long until I decided I had enough. And I was like, no, but that's now. I've had enough now. We're done.
Yeah, dude, I don't understand people who don't have that fear or, oh my God, what a torturous hellscape it would be to have that fear and have that consciousness and then still not do anything. That would just be more misery.
And as we're talking, I was thinking about this. Because you and I are very similar. Jeff is my husband is a pretty similar type of guy. And our friend circle is pretty much like this, right? Like there's a future thinking aspect to kind of who we hang around with. And people are always looking for, not looking for the next thing in the sense that they're not happy with or grateful for where they are. But it's like, okay, I'm here now. They have a growth mindset, I guess is the term that you would use for it. They're constantly looking to grow. They don't want to stay where they're at. They're enjoying where they're at right now, but they know that there's always something more, there's always something better, and they're growing into that at a constant rate. It might not be the same always, you might pause or go slower or faster at different points depending on your life circumstances, but there's always a growth happening. I think that there is another whole class of people that I very often like don't interact with just because that's not the world I'm in. That just get to a point and they're happy and they stop. And they're like,
happy might be a stretch.
Well, okay, happy is the wrong word. They are content to stop. They're content to stop. Complacent, or they don't realize they haven't been exposed to the fact that there is more out there. They don't realize. Maybe it's a lack of exposure. I don't know what it is, but I've always had this mindset of like, what's the next thing? What am I doing now? What, like when I was younger, it's like maybe middle school, high school was actually a problem because I would like get an award for something and like wouldn't even celebrate. I'd be on to the next thing. And
Mm.
like I didn't want to party when I graduated high school. I was like, I'm supposed to graduate high school. I'm going to college. Bye. So like, and my mom was like, you need to stop.
You're a fucking nerd, dude.
But like that's the mindset I've always had. So I guess I didn't realize that there were other people that didn't think that way. And I think that once it's almost like, again, once the third eye has been opened and once you're exposed to the fact that there is more and there's always more, then you can't unsee it, right? And then the snakeskin gets too tight. But it's like, do you think Jeff Bezos is like fine to never make another dollar in the rest of his life? No. He's already like the richest man ever. And he's gonna keep making money because there's always more. There's always more to do.
And there is a point, like you don't have to really go far. I remember my big story is my 80K story, where my first year at Agora, I had decided to take like a break one day and like play Smash Bros. And I was like, should I go to the office? And I did my calculations in my head and recognized I had made about 80 grand in royalties.
Mhm.
And my whole goal, because remember, like I'm breaking out of poverty. Like I'm gonna be somebody. I wanted to make 6 figures my first year. And I remember that moment. And it's funny because science backs this up, that I hit 80K in royalties and I decided like, I'm just going to chill out. Like my rent was paid. I've never had a car payment. I buy cheap cars and I just pay essentially cash, like either a credit card and pay it off or cash. Like I buy cheap cars. So like I didn't have bills like that. And at 80K, I was like chilling. And that's whenever I learned the whole thing about deep work, where I shifted my focus from like making money to like just working 2 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And deep work propelled me over doubled my income because I stopped focusing on that money thing. I think that's such a huge, the point I'm trying to say there, it ties right back to Jeff, is like, I think for me, it was 80 grand. After 80 grand, money almost kind of didn't matter. Like if I'm not trying to like have a yacht party and impress like the college girls and like they come out on my boat for spring break or something, if I'm not trying to do that, right? I'm not trying to be top G like that. Like if I just want to like be comfortable, at that point, it's all about, well, what's fulfilling to do after 80 grand? And I was shocked at how much, because I had never had that much money. That's again, my family had never made that much money. We didn't have
and most
money.
People don't like let's not like, we play in a realm in the business world where the numbers are very large, but let's not discount the fact that like $80,000 is a lot more than most people make. If you are making $80,000 in your business or your job, like you are doing very well. Congratulations. Like the fact that we're talking about 7 figures, $10 million, $60 million, whatever, that's because that's the numbers we work with because of the clients we work with, right? Like that's just the world that we're playing in all the time. But don't act like it's just, nothing that you were able to do that. That was awesome.
I think, thanks. But I think one of the point that I was really trying to make was like, I'm a very driven individual. I'm very competitive. Mm-hmm. And so like, I was like, I'm going to make 100 grand. That was my, and then my motivation vanished when I crossed 80. And that's what shocked me is like, how did this happen to me? Like neutered me. Like I had this chip on my shoulder my whole life. And then at 80, it went away. And I was like, that's all I needed? Like all this anger for fucking, 29 years and all I needed was 80 grand. I'd be like, chill.
And I don't want to sound like insensitive, but especially as an entrepreneur, $80,000 is a lot easier to make than people think it is. I'm not saying it's easy by any means. You still have to do the right things. You still have to put in the work. But $80,000 in the grand scheme of business is no money. Like companies write checks for that amount. And the US Small Business Administration calls a small business in the marketing space anything under 16 million a year. And people are out here talking about their $100,000 business. That's microscopic in the world of business. And again, I don't say that to like diminish anybody's accomplishments, but rather to put the spotlight on the fact that there is so much more room to play here, even in the world of small business. So I'm not trying to come across as like, you make no money, you're poor, we're all broke. Like that's not enough. I'm saying like there is so much more. It's so much bigger than you think it is. My cat's being an asshole. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I can relate because even at my level, because we're like I was talking about earlier, like getting Coffee Squad ramped up. If it were just me, honestly, I think we would be making more money because no one will work as hard as you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, but like, I want it to be like a systems thing
Mm-hmm.
where I'm playing the long game. I'm going to let a bunch of money off the table so that I can, in like 5 or 6 years, and this isn't so I can stop working and go live on a beach. It's so that I can do stuff like this. And I
Mm-hmm.
told Todd Brown when I joined Top One, which is full of top G's, that I wanted to, like, he asked me my business goals. Like, the first question he asked me, I said, my business goals is that I could play 4 to 5 hours of video games guilt free, because I know my business is so taken care of,
Yep.
and the systems and processes. Like, will I play the video games? Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe I will, just in celebration.
But you want the
like,
option.
yeah, I want the option. I want the option. All right. I know I probably won't. Because, like, why am I doing this right now? Like, why wouldn't I just go be playing video? I just can't stop.
Right.
I can't stop.
Can't
I just
stop
want to
creating.
I want to just like do something. I want to be busy. I want to
Yeah.
be like, I want to be creating something and see where it goes. I think something that about that snakeskin thing, like being tight or whatever, is like, you said something like,
Give me 1 second. I'm listening to you. The cat's just like in the trash can. Okay,
look,
go.
don't punt small animals on
I'm
camera.
not punting him, but like,
PETA
why
will
are you
come
in my
after
trash?
you.
I don't know.
She's
No,
never
I'm
seen a trash
obsessed with
can
him. I'm obsessed with this cat. He's such a little jerk, and I love him so much.
Okay, that's your disclaimer. I would never punt him. Never.
No, I think him being a jerk is funny. Jeff is the one that's like, why do you love him? He belongs in jail. And I'm like, he's the best. Look at him. He's a jerk.
Yeah. Insert generic woman comment once more. Oh, you love jerks. Go figure. So anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so the snake skin thingy. Oh, this is what you said. You said something that triggered my brain to be like, being scared or excited about it is like the kind of you don't know what you don't know thing. You kind of got to have one of those moments. I remember, like, when I became like a 1% earner at one point, and it's sort of like, it felt like a door opened up where it's like, I had these aspirations for like making 6 figures, and it would be, I don't know. Like, I don't know what would happen. I didn't know. But then I was like, holy shit, I could do anything. And then all of a sudden, like, there was these newer things that I could do that I hadn't considered doing, and I had like a VSL for my 7 pages of 7 figures. And at the end of the VSL, when I'm sort of painting the picture of future you, I'm talking about, look, there are going to be, once you learn how to do this copywriting thing, there are going to be like the opportunities, like, imagine, all your dreams come true. But now imagine there are dreams you don't know you have yet.
Yep.
And you sort of have to have one of those eye-opening experiences, maybe early on or at a small scale. Maybe for me, that was like going into the walls of Agora Financial and seeing the people there that I saw, like, holy shit, I'm standing next to celebrities and best-selling authors. I didn't know that any dude who has never made more than 50 grand a year, has no real writing skill besides I kind of like writing, like, could just walk into this room and be standing here. Like, it's weird because it's like you said, like, getting 6 figures or whatever in business, it's just sort of a matter of like, there's like no secret. The secret is like, have a list and an offer, and then get that shit tight. Like,
do
get
it
your
again
offer
and
tight.
again and again
Yeah.
and again.
Get your offer tight, and when it isn't tight, tighten it up. All right.
Yep.
and make it new, easy, safe, and big. And then if your list is small, see if you
Grow
can
it.
convince more people to get on it.
Right. Well, here's the other thing too, is like, everything is feedback. I feel like a lot of people stop at the first time something doesn't work because they're like, oh, I launched it and nobody signed up, or I launched it and 3 people signed up. You had 3 people sign up. What about those people or your messaging made those 3 people sign up? Let's do more of that. What made the people that almost signed up not sign up? Let's do less of that. Everything is feedback. It's not a failure, it's a feedback. And like, I hate to sound like Susie Sunshine here, but like, you literally can't fail unless you stop trying.
You say sometimes. You say Susie Sunshine.
I mean, like, you okay, are you gonna laugh at me? You can listen to what I'm saying, Kyle.
All right.
But here's why I said Susie Sunshine. Because like, you literally can't fail unless you stop trying. And that's not just something I'm saying to make people feel good. It's like, failure is an end event. If you don't stop, you can't fail, because failure by definition only happens at the end of something. If you're still trying, you haven't failed. Like, it's the definition of the word. Failure is an event, an end status, right? If you're not done, you haven't failed.
That's like that win-learn stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
No win-lose.
Yeah.
So it's so funny you say this because on Tuesday, I don't want to name names, we have our weekly tactical call. In weekly tactical, here, I'll share some advice on meetings for folks. I read this book, Death by Meeting. So now every Tuesday we have a tactical call. And there's only two things that I say or ask. I say, hey, what are you working on this week? Everyone says something. This way we all know. Like, we actually have an answer. Like, don't be just like sitting around sort of like, I'm a diddle daddle with this or that. No, I need an answer. Like, what are you working on this week?
Mm-hmm.
And then I say, last week, what impeded your progress? Because that's a process system tightening sort of question.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you get something done that you were trying to get done, or what frustrated you last week?
Mm-hmm.
And again, because I'm not working in the business, I'm trying to figure out how to work on the business. I'm going to try to figure out how I can fix that. That's the only thing I asked them. Somebody said, we got to stop posting podcast clips. Because same shit I was saying earlier, it's hurting the channel. The average view duration is too low. It doesn't help our impressions. We're not getting the spread that we need because it's killing performance. And so I gave like this whole impassioned, like 15-minute speech because I've worked at marketing companies, and it was very similar, sort of like to what you just said in a way, where it's like, especially these big direct response behemoths, i.e. like the Agora Financials, where we would try something new. Like, what if we did a promo like this? Or what if we did a campaign like this and it wouldn't work? And then they would say, that doesn't work. And I would just be
what
like,
about that worked?
You tried
it one time. Yeah.
Right. And it's the thing is, they'd revert back to what they know and they're experts at. And so what I was saying on Tuesday with my team was like, we're just not experts at getting podcast clips in front of people. We're used to saying like how to do this very specific copywriting technique. We need to learn how to get a little bit more intrigue and sort of like curiosity provoking and what are the formats, like clickbait stuff, essentially. Like, it's not that podcast clips don't work. They fucking work. Do you have a podcast clip on your YouTube right now? I bet there's 30. They work. We're just doing a shit job at them right now. And so we can't just stop doing podcast clips because these three aren't performing. So because like, here's the end result. And this is the big picture thing that's really important. These businesses, I watch them get top heavy and then fall over because they would try that new thing and it didn't work. So we got to go back to what we know. And they tried a new thing, it didn't work. They get back to what we know. And the thing that there's like a half-life to it. Like, over time, everything sort of eventually stops working. Things change. And so you're stuck in this thing where, we don't do things that way or whatever. But then here's where the noose, then the noose tightens. And the noose tightening is this: as things are changing and sort of catching up with you, you still have to make your fixed cost nut, right? So like, they're pressured to like, well, we have to pay staff. So in order to make sure we pay staff, we're going to do the thing that we know works and makes our surefire bet.
Yep.
Now, I've watched at least 2 businesses go to shit doing this because over time, as that margin shrinks and it gets less and less effective, that was the time they should have spent sort of developing their other side, like in parallel. How are we going to make that other thing work that didn't work before?
Right.
Because that's where I say it gets top heavy. Now they've got this much margin, and eventually it inverts.
You don't have enough runway because
there's no
it's like the
fallback.
time when you need to be developing the next thing is way before you need the next thing.
Yes.
That's because your risk tolerance goes way down the smaller that margin gets, right? Like, you can't handle things failing when the margin is this big because you don't have enough to work with.
So like in a direct response business, that could be, we're going to do a live webinar. Why? Because live webinars have our highest margin. So what happens when you do a live webinar every week? Because you need that money, so you do them every single week. Next thing you know, they make 0 money, and then they start actually losing money because you're paying for all this production and marketing.
And then no one's on because they know you're just going to do another one next week.
And what's your other strategy? Well, we couldn't get anything else to work. So that's so frustrating because I'm talking like 50 to $300 million businesses. And it's just like, you couldn't find like any other sort of avenue for success. And then
Well, it's just a
just watch them sort
perspective
of
shift,
limp
right?
along.
And that's this cat, I swear to God. But that's the perspective shift, right? It's like, okay, this isn't a failure, it's feedback. What can we do to tweak and try again? Or what are the factors that we have control over that we can move around and play with to see if it works? And that's not to say everything's going to work if you work it enough. It's just to say, what can we, not to write things off immediately when they don't work right the second. And this is how launching works too, and I'll see this not with my clients because I tell them what to expect, but with a lot of people in the online entrepreneurship, I'm a coach or I'm a service provider type of space, is they'll launch a thing and nobody will buy it. So they retire the thing or never talk about the thing again. When the reason nobody bought the thing was because no one was aware of the thing until you introduced the thing and expected them to buy it. I expect that enrollments for my mastermind, like my mastermind's smaller right now because we literally just introduced it this year. I expect this time next year, I will not have a small mastermind because I will continue talking about it. I will continue posting about it. I will continue enrolling people actively into it. And it just stacks, right? So my first launch, I mean, it's evergreen enrollment. So I don't want to call it a launch because the cart never closes, but it's, my first promotional period for this thing, a couple people signed up. My next one, it might double. It might double again. It's like, have you ever heard of that old like Chinese parable with like the grains of rice on the chessboard or the checkerboard?
Mm-mm.
It's like, I forget it. I'm going to totally butcher this, but it's like this guy asks for repayment. He does like some grand favor or something for the emperor. And the emperor says, how do you want me to repay you? And he's a little tricky guy. So he says, okay, for every square on the checkerboard, I want you to start with 1 grain of rice, but then double it every day. Okay, well, the first few days, it's like 1 grain of rice, 2 grains of rice, 4 grains of rice, 8 grains of rice. By the time you get through 64 squares on a checkerboard, he's like bankrupted the whole kingdom because he's like has all the rice in like the nearby area. And that's how launching works, and that's how business works, and that's how tweaking these little product introductions works. It all compounds. But if you stop at the first, you end up with 3 grains of rice. Good for you.
Yeah, that's the Beer Fest productivity hack, the 2 ounce to death approach. The 2 ounce to death, like it compounds. Like over time, these little 2 ounces, little grain of rice turns into 2, turns to 4, turns to 8. Like that's
and then it hits you. You're rice rich.
Yeah,
you're beer rich.
You could be the riciest top G in the land. So you got picked up by BuzzFeed for doing
let's go
hair
back
and
to
makeup.
BuzzFeed. Yeah.
See, I told you I would bring it back.
I know
you
wrote
it down in my.
So here's what happened with BuzzFeed though. They straight up took my video, downloaded it somehow, chopped it into little GIFs, and put it on their website without crediting me first. The reason I got the credit and the viral views was because I knew somebody who worked at BuzzFeed at the time, thank God. And he told me to email their editor and demand a link and a credit on that article. And that's how all the traffic got driven back to my YouTube video.
Okay, yeah. So this is all back to like the idea of, and I remember this because we were talking about like we do have, like, I feel like I've never had a chance where we just talk and I'm paying attention. Well, I'm noticing, like, again, though, the things that you did say earlier, like, we have a lot of similarities. I'm like, wow, we actually do. Like, there's the weird parallel of like having like a professional degree, that going into like a prestigious job. Like, we're a product of the same generation, the same sort of like zeitgeist beliefs, really, is what happened. And then we rejected them at the same time.
We did.
So
I'm still hung up on the fact that over the last like 15 years, you haven't paid attention to me at all. And what?
It's like, wait a minute. I kind of like this Donata girl.
Says words.
There's something to this. So there's something to this one. There's something special about her. So I think what I was trying. Well, I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Demanding credit.
Yeah, so you demanded credit. Oh yeah, and it was like, oh yeah, because you started off, you were doing like hair and makeup. I actually started off like this all 99 thing, which is my Instagram handle is all 99 Kyle, which was sort of like this is the maximization of like the all 99 concept for anyone who doesn't know, and nobody does and nobody gets it. In Madden, you can like take your character attributes and you can sort of tick them up to 99.
99.
So I wanted to become all 99 Kyle. I wanted everything about like my attribute scale to be at 99. So that's where all 99 came from.
Remember
But it did
earlier when you called me a nerd?
You were paying attention.
As I have been for the last 15 years of our friendship.
Oh my God, Denata, that was weeks ago. When are you going to let it go? So
was our beer fest thing, and you took notes on that.
It was good, man. It was good shit.
I liked it.
So,
have you seen that meme where like people are like, "Oh, these edibles ain't shit," and then like it hits them? That's what that beer fest thing was like.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't consume products with THC, but that's what that beer fest thing is like. All of a sudden, you're drunk.
Yeah, I've consumed products with THC.
I assume you had, yes.
I've actually only done it a couple times. It never like goes wonderfully for me, and people will be like, "Well, that's because you got to do it for a while, like build up a tolerance or something like that." I do it like
just
once.
Call it a failure at the first time, Hal. You have to tweak.
That's what they. That's what they
I'm
tell
not
me.
a proponent of these products. I've never used one in my life.
There's these stoners and potheads like, nah, dude, you didn't fail.
Like,
you just got.
It's healthier for you than cigarettes. Smoke
like, you
goes
gotta just,
directly into your lungs with no filter, but it's healthier.
Yeah, you got to figure out what worked about this trip or this high. So you were one of the first people that said something that I have now repeated. Oh, I was paying attention then. So you said something that I have repeated multiple times, which is that stoners often make excuses for being stoners instead of just saying, I love smoking pot.
Yes,
right?
They'll never just admit they love weed.
I've
just
now
say
that
you love it.
Now that I've been cognizant of that, and I probably hang out with more potheads than you, but like I now have been cognizant of that, and I kind of catch them. Like if they say, like, because in Florida, like you have vape pens, like weed pens, like just everywhere. You can smell it. And I've been out at bars, people just holding a joint, and like just it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Yeah. And so if you're like, I remember I was out and, it's like we're standing in a circle at a bar. We're talking. Everyone's got a vape in their hand now, which is like, oh my God, that's like a new generation thing too. It's like so these vapes are crazy because all right. So look, vaping, they're crazy, man. I'm telling you. So if you're, I remember in college when I wanted to like talk to a cute girl solo alone. It's very simple. Well, we're at a house party or we're at a bar. Let's go outside, have a cigarette. Right? Everybody smokes when they drink. Like it's just like it's excusable. It's no big deal. Let's go. And it is one of those sort of like it works. It gets you some alone time away from like the loud noises and the crowds and kind of talk to someone. So, well, vaping is kind of like a bummer because like everyone can do it everywhere at all times, but you can still interact and say, "Hey, can I take a hit off your vape?" And that's like a weird sort of like connection, intimacy. You shared lip space in a way. So you do this. Now, I don't vape. And I got a little tug off of someone's vape. And that shit, the cherry chemicals or whatever it was, that flavoring in there, I was like immediately hooked. Like I didn't want the smoke. There was something in there. Like I took one drag off of vape and I was like I just needed more of that like sweetness, like in my taste buds. It was crazy though. Because I was shocked because I was consciously aware of like, I want to go back to that girl now and steal her vape. And I'm not even like a vapor. It took one. That's what I was like saying. Like that's just crazy. Nuts. Oh yeah. So anyway, I was conscious of the weed thing. So there's people like we're at a bar like smoking, or we're at a bar drinking, and everyone's got vapes. And girl takes a hit of the weed pen. Like everyone's got vapes. Like, oh, you got something special in there, don't you? And like you could smell it. And then her answer is like, yeah, it helps my anxiety. And it's like, bitch, just say you like it. Does.
Just say you like it. Yeah.
Yeah, just say you like it, man. You're gonna make an excuse like right out of the get go. Like cool,
I have a family member who smokes both cigarettes and weed, and will insist that the weed is somehow like an improvement or better or whatever. I'm just like, sir, you're constantly filling your lungs with all of the things. Just say you like to get high. Like that's can I be a
So,
nerd and like bring it back to like owning your desires and what you want and like just say you hate your job, just say you want to do something else and just go fucking do it. Like why are we
yeah.
all like wearing these masks like, oh no, my job's fine. Oh no, I don't really like weed. I just smoke it all the time. Like, why are we doing this?
Well, if you want to go down that road, so there's two things. I mean, like one, I feel like I think there's some there's enough in the zeitgeist evidence wise say it has health benefits. So I'm not a
Yeah.
doctor, but I hear it, I believe it. Even mental health benefits, because like psilocybin, like magic mushrooms and shit, is about to become like mainstream. It's like the next one up.
I know people microdosing. Is there a microdose? Just say you're taking mushrooms. Like, come on. You're
I
not
don't.
microdose. Microdosing's not better. But this is all proof of like why language matters, right? Like, we know what you're saying. Like, you take shrimps. All right, fine.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. But like, so the other thing about you're saying, like, say you hate your job or whatever, like the I don't know where I was gonna go with this, but like the level of escapism, like the more I sort of like dive into this realm, the more I sort of try to figure it out for myself. Because I do think, like I was telling you, like I thought I had asthma, but the doctor said that's just anxiety, bro.
Mhm.
I'm like, maybe there are lots of programs like that are running subconsciously that I'm not aware of. That if I were to become aware of them, maybe I could reprogram them and make them
Mhm.
stronger, better, more beneficial. Make myself a top G, and
Touch.
then the top G of top Gs. Like not just the top G. There's a hierarchy to these things
Well,
to
what would
know
he
that.
be doing right now?
What would he be doing?
Let's start with the alter ego. What would he be doing right now?
What would he be doing? I think
I'll
he's
tell you
kind of
what.
doing.
I something that surprised me. You know, Grant and Elena Cardone. Of
Yeah.
course, yeah. Okay, 10x, all those. I love them. Elena does not drink, and I don't think Grant drinks either because she's like, I need to have my whole brain at all times.
Mm.
Like, isn't that wild? Like, you'd think they're like billionaires living it up, partying all the time. Nope. They're like super strict again about their environment and like the inputs that they're putting into their space.
So I mean, Grant is like originally was like a phone sales, like that's like his
Hmm.
come up, and they are pretty plugged in. I think getting more plugged into the copywriting space,
Hmm.
because they have all this marketing and all this stuff going on. So I actually two things there. Like, I mean, because Cardone used to be partnered with Frank Kern,
Hmm.
and apparently Frank Kern's very polarizing for people who have known or worked with him or something in the past. Like, I
I
personally
wouldn't know. Yeah.
think he's cool. Like I just like all his stuff. I just think he's a cool dude. I'd love to have a beer with that guy someday. Um, and it's funny because I remember like just being like, I love this dude. If you guys watch Frank Kern, blah blah blah, and like some people like push back, like I don't like Frank Kern. I'm like, how could you not like Frank Kern? So anyway, but yeah, he and Grant Cardone were partnered, and Frank Kern is like
Hmm.
a big direct marketing guy, direct response guy, and advertising. He has like a tattoo, ROAS, return on ad spend.
Nice.
So like he's into that world, but they had like Cardone Kern like agency or something that was very short lived. It didn't last.
Hmm.
But then Kevin Rogers, who runs a group called Copy Chief, is now he's now like a partner with Cardone for recruiting. Which first off, congrats to my boy Kevin Rogers. Kevin Rogers is in top one, which is that
Oh,
top down
nice. Yeah, yeah. Your
mastermind.
mastermind that you're in. That's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So so that's cool for him. But like it's funny because I saw there's another guy, Stefan Georgi, is in the copywriting space. He's a big deal for like copywriting coaching and stuff like that. He's got a thing called Copy Accelerator. And I saw a picture of like him and Grant Cardone hanging out at some sort of like rich guy event. I
A
don't know
rich guy
what,
event, some
guys,
bougie thing
where everyone's wearing like white shirts and khakis on like a beach somewhere
on
or
a
something.
boat.
Like,
Yeah, they got there with
yeah,
helicopters and all that.
right. Yeah, exactly. They were at some sort of like rich people event or something. Like, but it's funny like to see like, you know, uh, this goes back to what I was saying. Like the first time I met James Altucher, I used to listen to his podcast. I read his book Choose Yourself, and then I go to Agora Financial, and my first meeting was with James Altucher to pitch ideas, and I was like, "This is the idea guy. This is the 10 ideas a day guy. This is the idea sex guy." Like,
Yeah.
and here I am, like nobody.
Here's my
But
ideas. Yeah.
it, it's weird. There's a couple things that I've learned from marketing. Like, it's weird how small. This is why I try not to throw shade in our space. Like, I try not to talk shit. I try not to do anything too, because like it's like the pimp game. All right, like if you knew the, it's like the pimp game. Like one day you could be top G, right? You could be the baddest pimp on the street, and then like you leave the track and you come back a year or two later and someone else is top G. So it's like it happens like that. Like one day you could be on top, and then next thing you know, you're working for the dude that you used to employ or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a small world, and there are another thing that I noticed is like there are so few people who are actually good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
A lot
these,
of people's marketing skill extends to convincing other people that they have marketing skills.
and they can get by for a
And
very long
if
time
that
with
hurt
that.
you, I'm not sorry about it. Like if that hurt your feelings, it's you I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's woof woof woof. Yeah, there's a
I
lot of
will throw
people.
shade. I'm not above it.
Yeah, but like, oh yeah, but
If you can't say amen, say ouch.
yeah, the crazy thing is that like these folks who have these massive followings or they're massively successful, there's these really tight circles. It's really small.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, I remember when I was sort of like, I kind of am doing it now when I think about it. Like when I had to like make the mind shift away from like being like, okay, I made 80 grand. I didn't want to work anymore. Like
Mm-hmm.
not that I didn't want to work. I wanted to take a day off and relax. And like, I realized the fire was gone at 80 grand. I had to shift my perspective. Deep work. Well, what else do I want to do? And I imagined myself at a table. There were certain people at that table and that I would be working alongside them with them, talking business, not as a
Mm-hmm.
fanboy any longer, but as an equal.
Yeah.
Some of those people at that table in my mind, it's very like it's a lot closer to that reality now. Like
Yeah.
Todd Brown was one of them. Joe Schrieffer, who's the publisher to Gore Financial. There's still mentorship figures in my world, but I'm a lot more like I don't want to say like the conversations we have are a lot more mature in our like Frank Kern was one of them. I still haven't gotten to a table with Frank Kern yet, but it's like the world of this stuff is really small. I think is ultimately what I'm saying. If you just keep at it and you raise up the ranks a little bit, like it doesn't take very long to get in a room with them.
That's the thing. At the very bottom entry levels, it seems like everybody's doing it. And especially if you know, in my experience, when you're on social media all the time and all you see, all the algorithm feeds you is other social media marketing people. Like, here's the trick, here's how to grow, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh my God, everybody's doing this. The world is so noisy. But as that pyramid gets smaller and smaller, and as time goes on, the circles get smaller and smaller because people quit. People, you know, are exposed for not actually having the skills or the knowledge they say they have. And excuse the stutter. One of the frustrating things about working with clients who don't have that knowledge and don't have that longevity in the industry is sometimes they'll say things like, well, if you know what you're doing, why don't you have more followers? Because I don't post on my own account because I'm doing client work. But it's like things that they don't know because they're at that bottom base level. The circles get smaller and smaller as time goes on and as the levels get more advanced, for sure.
Yeah, me and Todd were talking about something very similar, which was, you know, he said like his campaigns, because of his status in the world as a marketing genius, basically, he feels like his campaigns are under the microscope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because you said the thing that I am guilty of, which is like my campaigns are kind of written. I've had my designer write sales pages, not a copywriter. Like just like I don't want to.
I don't want to anymore. Yeah,
like,
it's like because I know the level of scrutiny is just so high.
Well, it's not even that. Like I just two things. Like one, I don't want to be the copywriter inside my own business because I don't want to. Again, I don't want to be working in the business. We're working on the business.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build the business. I don't. That's the new thing I'm into. I want to build the business. I don't want to be a copywriter inside of like my own job. So there's that. And the other thing, which is crazy, is this weird sort of like, it's like you can't identify your own relationship problems.
No.
Like everyone else can see it, but you can't. It's the same thing. Like when I'm selling my own product, I'm just like, I have a YouTube channel with followers. I'll tell them I have a new product and they will buy it. And it's like, no, you idiot. That's not how marketing works.
It's so hard to do it for yourself too, because you're so close to it. It's almost like to get, very, very concrete, you don't even know what information's missing because it's all in your head. So you don't know what the client or potential client doesn't know or needs to know about this thing because you know everything about it. You're not like, missing anything. You could say, oh, it's so great because this, and this, and you have all this background information knowing why that means it's so great, but your potential clients have no idea. So you're too close to it to like even make an accurate assessment about whether the copy's good or whether the messaging is good or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it becomes self-evident to you why your
Mhm,
product is so great. You're like, what do you mean?
mhm.
Because I made it and I'm top G. And what else do you gotta know?
Made it
Like,
on Top G.
that's got my whole sales page. I made it. I'm top G. What else do you gotta
Get
know?
this thing. That's so nuts.
So you were, yeah. So, this is something interesting because I was interested in this and I wanted to talk about it. Like, so you're doing hair and makeup tutorials. Yeah, I was
Mhm,
talking about like, you didn't have a ton of outside. Let me ask you this, like, because you walked away from the lawyer job and everything, and you might
mhm,
have gotten the same sort of like, visceral response that I received when I walked away from like the CPA world.
mhm.
But like, what about I'm gonna go there. What about like your family? Your family, like, oh, whatever makes you happy, honey. Like, how did that
My
conversation
mom
go?
said that. My dad waited a little bit and said, "So you're just gonna give up on being a lawyer, huh?" We were at a Mexican restaurant. I swear to God, I nearly threw up on the floor. I was so upset. I was like, "Ugh." Like, I felt like I'd been stabbed in the chest. So you're just gonna give up on being a lawyer, huh? Like took us out to Mexican and like announced his
Yeah.
disapproval.
I just imagine him there, like having like this really festive
Like with
sombrero
the
on,
Glock.
and there's like a
They're just gonna
mariachi
give up on
band,
me.
like this beautiful environment, and everyone's having a good time and shooting off pistoleros, and and he's just standing there, that big sombrero on, looking you dead in the eyes. You're giving up. The
You're giving up.
disappointment.
Well, the fact that he phrased it as giving up meant like he felt like that I didn't try hard enough, which was the real gut punch, right? Like he doesn't care what job I have as long as I'm not like on his payroll, right? But
Hmm.
he felt like I was just giving up on being a lawyer because it was so I couldn't handle it or it was too bad or something. I think he's like eating his words now, but it was
Yeah.
just funny the way he phrased it because I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. So for me, I sold everything and cashed in the
Mhm.
401k, and then I went couch surfing. What did you do, like, to support yourself in the interim of that journey?
So we actually, I will take pride in this till the day I die. My business has never been in the red, ever. So I didn't quit. I probably quit a little bit sooner than I had replaced my income, like very much sooner than that, but we had enough to like live, right? So we didn't make a lot that year, that first year, but we lived while we were deciding where we wanted to live and while we were waiting for Jeff to get a job. So I was married. I was in a position where like we were a two-income household, but then we went immediately down to zero incomes or like my little business incomes plus Jeff didn't
And
have a job.
Jeff, yeah, Jeff had it took him a minute to get placed as like
Yeah,
a pharmacist, right?
yeah, because he works for the government and the government, as you know, is slow at everything. So it took
Mhm.
him a minute between like when he interviewed and when he got his offer, when he got his offer and when he started. So it was just me for a while we were waiting on them to get their lives together. Um, but we had enough like kind of in the savings, but we did not drain the savings. And I will say that again with pride. But um, we moved in with my in-laws for a few months while we were deciding where we were going to live, where we were going to look for jobs, and then once we had enough to like get an apartment, that's when we just carried on as usual, just in a two-bedroom
Oh,
apartment in North Carolina. Expenses were way lower. That's the thing. Like to maintain the same standard of living as we had in New York City, like we did not need to make as much because rent was not $5,000 a month or whatever ridiculous number it was.
man, I've thought about that. Like, Florida's great. I guess the offset is income tax, right? Like,
Yeah.
but I've thought about, like, if I just went back to North Carolina, especially like where I grew up, my hometown, like where the median income is like, I don't know, $30,000 or something.
Hmm.
Like, I could live like a king, but there's just nothing there.
Yeah.
It's just nothing.
Well, we're lucky that the area that I grew up in has just started becoming cool and is also on a highway where cool things are. So like you could very easily get to the cool area, but it's also really affordable at the time. Um, so we were ready.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a big. I don't have a story of like eating ramen noodles,
Oh,
but that
I
was
do.
intentional.
I could tell those stories for days, man. I remember went to the casino with like I had like $75 to my name. And I was staying with my sister. My girlfriend was with me, and I went and turned that $75 into like $180 or like something like
Nice,
that.
nice.
And I took
And you
my
did it.
girlfriend right. I took her right to McDonald's and I got her like a double cheeseburger meal or something like that. That's just the kind of guy I am. You know,
Yeah,
I provide for mines. All right, that's all.
that's. I mean, to be. I'm also tired of all the health people like pretending like McDonald's doesn't kick ass because it does.
Oh yeah, I had Wendy's last night. Now this was a very disappointing Wendy's experience. I do what I call the night shift at the cigar bar, which is where I
Okay,
kind of work until like if there's still stuff left over. I did find a coffee shop that's open till 10 p.m. I found
nice.
one, but
Because
for the
that's
longest
exactly when
time
you
now.
need caffeine is 10 p.m.
Yeah, there's a thing about like cigar smoke and nicotine and stuff like that that really sharpens your brain. It's like nicotine itself is sort of like this sort of focusing drug. And I always knew like I get a lot done when I'm smoking cigars. And then I found out later on down the road that, oh, this nicotine thing will actually make you a stronger writer. That's not an
Oh,
endorsement for smoking to everyone on the planet. But your boy's been doing it for like 3 or 4
research.
years now. Yeah. And I mean, I
Research.
am top G now. So, I mean,
Top
putting
G,
two and
yeah.
two together.
I don't smoke and I get a lot done, so take that evidence and do with it what you want.
Yeah. Take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it,
Smoke and
everybody.
or don't. You know, whatever, up to you. So, did we miss anything in your notes, Kyle?
That's a good question because I part of me is my brain is sort of like I do sort of like the chaotic freeform of moving through the conversations because I felt like coming back to the notes, coming back to little bookmarks that I put, actually kind of so like imagine it like I want to call it like tree like branches or something, right? And like that's
Hmm.
how the conversation flows. Like we have like our
Your
little
main
cool tree of
trunk.
life thingy.
Hmm.
Yeah, you guys like your basis, like, hey, how do you know each other? Oh, what do you do? And you kind of sprouts out into all these different branches. And what I kept doing when I take a note, I'm taking a note at a fork.
At a branch. Yep.
Yeah, I'm taking a note at the because this is where the conversation went. And I was like, well, what would have happened? It's a
We went this
save
way
point.
instead. It's a
It's a
save
save
point.
point, right? Like when you have to make like a critical
Nerd.
decision that'll affect.
This
So I
dude
got.
played The Witcher 3 72 times to do all
I've
of
never
this.
played it, so
You need to. It's good.
yeah, you nerd. So I never played The Witcher. I never played World of Warcraft. There's a couple that I purposefully. I never played Red Dead Redemption 2
Okay.
because I see what they do to people, and it's like I actually enjoy video games. So to sit down and begin that, it would swallow me. I would never be seen again. So I don't. I avoid those almost like it's like. I would say the same reason I don't do heroin, but there's so many more reasons why I don't do that. But it's like
One of the same reasons that I avoid hard drugs. Yes, I agree.
yeah, I hear they're quite addictive. But yeah, so like one of the yeah, so I haven't ever played Witcher 3. But anyway, yeah, so it's like you're
You
fucking
took a
making a
note at a
critical
fork.
decision. Like, yeah, you're deciding if this character is gonna live or die, or this character's, and you don't want to. You want to get both endings, so
Right.
you hit that save button. So that's what I do with my little notepad over here. Is I do have some little notes though that were kind of like, but I felt like again, oh yeah. So every time I reload a save point, I'm bringing the conversation back
Back
here,
to the fork. Yeah.
right? When there could have been like more branches up here that I didn't even know about yet. I explained emotions to my father this weekend using Gears of War as a reference point.
Okay. So you started with a commonality. That's cool. Good.
He doesn't know shit about Gears of War. So I'd explain Gears of War to him first, and then I could explain emotions to him.
Okay. So maybe not the best starting point, but it worked.
Let me learn you something about how to master your mind, everybody. Okay. And what I think is really cool about this is I have a book list. So like this is, people will be like, would you recommend this book or another copywriting book, I always recommend my old copy chief Evaldo's book, 16-Word Sales Letter. I'm gonna put that in. I always try to take like notes of all the books that I talk about, so I just name that one 16-Word Sales Letter. But whenever I get it, the reason I say yes, I recommend that book, right? I'm not ashamed to say go check out someone else's YouTube channel, because like any topic, if you're well read, like if you're interested in the topic, you well read in it, like you study all of it. So I sort of got into stoicism like a year or two ago, and the wildness of, I mean, you grew up, your family, you were pretty based in Christianity, right? Like you're
I wouldn't say we were
familiar.
super religious, but we went to church and knew about it, and we didn't go every week by any
Yeah.
means.
But aren't you fairly well versed in like the Bible and stuff like that?
I would say as a Christian person, that is probably one of the more embarrassing things about my personal faith journey is that I'm not. But like I know some of the stories and all that. I couldn't like quote it to you.
So I know, yeah, okay. I'm probably about the same boat. Man, we're so similar, you and me. So I grew up in the Bible Belt in North Carolina. All of my family carries guns and goes to church on Sundays. So
at the same time.
Yeah, hell yeah. My granny's packing. True story. She got a little revolver.
Nice.
Yeah. So I have been so surrounded by these sorts of things my whole life that as I was reading this book today by this guy Joe Dispenza, it's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, I put a little note there. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
I thought you were going to say Becoming Supernatural, because I haven't finished that one yet.
Is that by him?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put that down here because the alter ego effect is also in my my list of things to read, because we talked about that like 2 Tuesdays ago on our copy call. Becoming Supernatural, and all these people, like all these high performers, we all read this shit. Like we all are trying to become like superhero versions of ourselves.
And we quote it to each other.
Yeah, it's always the same shit. That's kind of the point I was trying to make. Was like I was listening to this book today, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and I'm on chapter, I'll tell you which chapter, anyone who's reading it or read it. Chapter 11 is basically religion with different words. It's like he says, like, trust in the universe. The universe will never judge you because you are an extension of it. It created you. And it's like all these things, you could simply swipe out the word universe and plug in God, and you have the Bible. And then whenever he begins talking about meditation, this is how you get in touch with the universe. This is how you talk to the universe, and it sends you its wisdom and blessings. You swipe out meditation, you put the word prayer, and it's the exact, it's the Bible.
Everybody knows how to do it. They just don't realize they know how to do it.
Yeah, I make this point as often as I can. Like, is once you get into a topic long enough and you stick with it, you realize everybody's saying the same thing. Buddhism said the same shit. Like Jesus in the Bible says the same shit. And then the spirituality meditation stuff, it says the same shit. You got to get in touch with the oneness, the source. Yeah, they call it source. They don't call it God.
Oh my gosh, I saw this.
They call it source.
I'm on the internet all the time, guys, so please forgive me my chronically online tendencies, but I saw this meme that was like, it was just a tweet of somebody saying, like, when you realize the universe has daddy energy, so you start referring to it with he, him pronouns. And someone was like, Gen Z is this close to recreating Abrahamic religion.
A what?
Like, the 3 major religions, like Judaism and Christianity, where it's like monotheistic.
Yeah, it's like
Father God energy, right? Oh, the universe has daddy energy. That's literally what Christians have been saying this whole time, ma'am.
Yeah, right? Like, wait a minute. I just recognized. Yeah, like you figured this out, what they figured out, like, a gajillion years ago. But it is like, that is the truth. Like, everybody arrives at these same locations. I recognize this when I had like this whole winding discussion about like the idea of a big idea. And then I was like, no, we don't do big promises in my group. We do unique promises. And as I started to define what a unique promise is, I recognized I was describing a big idea. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Oops.
Like, yeah, because I'm like, I don't really believe that strongly in a big idea concept. I really do think that if you can handle the blocking and tackling, the nuts and bolts of building a sales argument, I can convince you to buy just about anything, which is like my big, that's why I think I can teach anybody to write strong copy. You don't have to be like a genius marketer or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So the point of all of this, we were talking about, Oh yeah, emergence holes in Gears of War. So I was explaining to my dad how his emotions and his brain and all that stuff works because I was like reading it out of this book, and I was so in Gears of War.
We have talked about drugs and video games more on this podcast than I like ever imagined would come up. But continue.
You know what though? I mean, you say that, but you guys do. Okay, so Jeff, besides the fact that he is so much more engrossed in Dark Souls than me, and it was surprisingly so like the fact that he like knew all the secret rooms and all the lore stuff and like was telling me
he's a
like,
completionist. He knows everything about every video game he has ever played. It takes him months to play a game because he doesn't finish it until he finishes the entire thing.
Top G.
Top G.
Top
Like
G, yes.
when I made fun of you for playing The Witcher 72 times, he played it 3 times because he needed to play it differently to get all the things that he needed to get.
On that note, we're going to the beer now.
Going to the beer now. Yep.
This shit is, I can feel it in my hand, is cooking my hand. All right. That's how hot this fucking beer is now, but we're going to do it anyway.
Ooh.
So, first off, I adore Jeff. And I think him talking about Dark Souls is one of the cutest fucking things that, because he gets so amped up like a child. And
I know.
What is he? He's
hyper fixated. It's crazy.
My other favorite part. So, Jeff is Korean. And
he's half Korean.
And I love that he's basically a redneck with his hunting equipment. And
when I tell you, this has nothing to do with business or copy or marketing or anything. But funny story. For the first like 9 years, Jeff and I have been together since as long as I've known Kyle. I think we were just starting to date when I met Kyle in English class, or one or the other came first, but like within months of each other, right? For the first like several, like maybe 9 years of our relationship, I did not know Jeff owned or knew how to operate a firearm. I did not know he had ever been hunting. I did not know he knew what camo was. And then we moved back down here from New York, and all of a sudden he was country boy. And I was like, where did this come from?
That pickup truck, like he's got like, what is it, a Ranger? What is that old thing?
It is a 1996 Ford Ranger. It is now old enough to rent its own car.
Which
it might need, because at any given time it could just stop working.
If cameras had higher fidelity, like I would have to excuse myself at least 2 or 3 times, because I'm pretty sure you've made me like snot on myself, like literally. Like, that's like the 3rd time I've done it.
Audience. You're welcome for the humor. Can we go back to the whole like trying to be like everybody else and like making your marketing so bland that no one wants to interact with it, and then the moment you break through and start being yourself is when you start being polarizing, aka attractive to your actual clients. When I started being funny was like a game changer.
You started
like funny? I was always funny, first of all, but when I started like actually letting people know that I was funny, it was like a freaking game changer for my brand, man. My business blew up.
You said, can we go back to that? I was like, I didn't even know we touched on that shit. When did that come up?
No, we talked about like having a brand that is not saying the same basic shit as everybody else. We talked about that.
Oh, yeah. You know what we should do is we should talk about gender roles and women's place in society. That seems to blow up pretty quick.
Can we not? I have to talk about the human garbanzo bean one more time, I might throw up.
Oh my God. I've not heard that one. But okay, to each their own, to each their own. I have been like, though, I've been like, shit. Like, because I don't want to just come out and be like, copycat, and I'm going to start saying all this bizarre shit. But I've been thinking, like, what? Again, like, it made me sort of reflect on, like, what would I go out into the world and say, and that everyone would push back, and I would be like, no, this is my truth. And I've been actually thinking about that. Like, what am I that passionate about? Yeah. You know?
But see, that is good marketing strategy, right? Like having a position and believing in something. It doesn't have to be that women are inferior beings. Like that would hopefully off the table. But like, what do you believe to be true about business, about copy, about marketing that other people might not? Like, I'm a big believer in no shortcuts. and you can't woo your way to clients. Like I call, have you heard these coaches that are just like, I just manifested all my clients, and I'm like, did you just vibe for clients? That's your sales strategy, vibing for clients. But I call it vibing for clients. I'm like, my clients know that's funny.
You got good labels.
People who vibe for clients don't like that very much.
You got good labels, and I love labels. Like I go ape shit. Yeah, labels are fun.
Because it's a shorthand, right? Like it encapsulates a bigger group of ideas or an idea into like a couple of words that you could just say and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Well, it makes organization out of chaos. It takes, like you said, it's shorthand. It takes a giant big picture concept and it pulls it down into this like very digestible. It's a file. It's a whole folder. It's a whole folder with a bajillion files inside of it. Whenever you give it a label, and it puts all those files into one little folder, you can access them all with that. That's what dog whistle words do. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, we're breaking down a promo right now, and the guy that wrote it knows red-blooded Republican Americans so deeply. Like, some of the word choices that he used were just like, holy crap. Like, it has this whole section about if you say the wrong thing on social media, if you believe the wrong belief, if you vote for the wrong person, they'll come for your money. And I was like, Jesus, this dude knows his audience.
He gets it. Yep.
Oh man. But yeah, so the idea of like having a position, I think about that, like, and you said something in that mix up there too, like that I wanted to comment on, and I of course lost. I should have taken my little notes. I abandoned.
Was it the beliefs that I listed? No shortcuts, no vibing for clients.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. Thank you.
My brain does that automatically.
We have a vibe.
I can put a pin in a thought and come right back to it.
So I actually have a vocal thing that I do. I call it bookmark that. And when I say the words bookmark that, it stores it. Yeah, bookmarks that. So
brains are so weird.
All right, now what was the thing that was supposed to be bookmark again? What'd you say?
No shortcuts.
No shortcut. Okay, so here's what I found interesting about the guy that you're not very fond of. And I actually am a little hesitant to like talk about him too directly or say his name because he's banned from like YouTube and stuff. And now I have a brand new YouTube channel, and if I think if I use his name or try to use him in content right now, it'll just smash my new channel. So I don't want to. I don't want to get suppressed like that. So it's like I know the game. I look at it. Does he? Two things. I'm gonna take notes now because I'm reaching a fork here. Here, there are 2 points I want to talk about. The first one, does he believe women are this way or that way, or better than or less than? You could argue he thinks they're different, like a separate but equal sort of argument or something. He tries to make that point. I think so. That's where I'm at with it. Like, I'm just watching. Okay, sort of like the observer in meditation. I'm just watching. Okay. I'm not emotionally attached to any of these things. You could use as evidence sort of the emotional charge and the energy with which he speaks to say like he really believes this stuff or really doesn't, right? You could say that. And for me, it makes no never mind. What I'm paying attention to is he never talks. He did in the beginning, but nowadays he doesn't even really talk about his product and these clip channels that put out his clips are rarely really like there's no features and benefits in these clips of the product. So
it's a belief system.
Right. So part of what I was thinking about is like, you said no shortcuts. You said one or two belief systems in there that you were talking about. And I just remember thinking sort of like those are like, think of it as concentric circles. Mm-hmm. No shortcuts is sort of like a level 2, maybe level 3. But like, I believe that in the way that you would discuss it would be a level 1 or level 2 concentric circle. And what I mean by that, in the center of all this is marketing and business. Mm-hmm. And I'm fascinated by the idea of I don't even have to talk about my product. Like I just have I just plant the flag in the dirt so sternly and say, I'll die on this hill. Right. Yep. And then all of a sudden people buy my product. That's the shit I'm paying attention to. Like the dude isn't even really selling. And it's like 120,000 subscribers or like paying members kind of thing. That's the thing that I'm paying attention
And the
to.
product doesn't have to be any good at that point because they just believe in you. So they're like fanboys at that point. But let me break this down the way a friend of mine does. She says, if you sell someone on your process, you sell them on your product. How I think about business is different from how the vibing for clients coaches think about business. The people who resonate with one are not going to resonate with the other. They're going to be repelled by one and not the other. So if you're choosing between two coaches, who do you pick? Like, you already know the problem exists. You need a business coach. We're all out here. You don't give a shit how many calls there are per month, how many PDFs or courses or group coaching access points you're going to get. You care how person A does business versus person B. Which one makes more sense to me? Which one feels right? So that's why, and we've been shifting for the last probably 6, 10, 12 months to all of our clients sharing belief content rather than like teaching someone how to think versus teaching someone how to do has been our shift with the content. And that
belief content.
Yeah, belief content. And again, teaching your audience how to think about a problem versus how to overcome or how to do the thing. And it has been so much better for conversions. And it's the same concept. It's like, if you sell someone on the process, you'll sell them on the product. Why is this process something that you cannot? I didn't come up with that. That's not mine. But if
where'd you get it?
My friend Sabrina tells it to me, but I don't even think she made it up.
Did she get it from a book or something? Like
I have no idea. I'll ask her.
You know what?
She might have made it up. She has a lot of phrases like I do.
Yeah, my first question was, teach me how to do the belief concepts. Like, teach me how to do
but you are already convinced that this is the way to do things, right? Like, you're already on this. Like, well, you're not going to go somewhere else to learn about content. Like, first of all, you know about content, but like, you're already convinced.
That's why I keep bringing up Top G. That's why I keep bringing up Top G, guys, because like, I think it's just like, forget his views. Like, look at the blueprint. Look at the blueprint, not the details. Look at the structure. Look at the silhouette of it. And it's just like, I'm not even going to tell you to buy the product. I'm just going to pick a stance. The stance has to be, I mean, this is how presidential races, why do I do it in quotes? But like, these are how presidential races are.
Right.
Yeah. Like, it's like, they're not even, it's not about platforms. It's not about platforms. It's not what you're going to do for the country. It's about
picking a team.
Picking, but how do you decide the team? It's like one or two core beliefs that are like, they have a charge. They're like lightning rods. And then that's your lightning rod. And it's like, there's probably only a handful of them in reality. There's probably only a handful of like true blue lightning rods. Like, if you just pick a stance on this thing and you say, I'm going to die on this hill. I mean, that's a live by the sword, die by the sword thing, because look who got banned, like, it's like,
well, you don't have to pick that view. That was my point from earlier. Like, it doesn't have to be earth shattering. It just has to be within your industry, somewhat of a yes or no, somewhat polarizing, somewhat, all right, that resonates or that doesn't. It doesn't have to be that view, right? That he was, because if you think about it too, like, if you said something like that, or like super identified with the political party or an economic viewpoint or whatever, that wouldn't necessarily bring you clients, right? Like, it has to be something that's relevant to your industry, or relevant to what you're selling.
That's where I'm gonna push back just a little bit. So for folks who don't know who we're talking about, his name rhymes with fate, Cobra Fate. So anyway, but that's the thing. Like, you said, it has to relate to your industry. That's where I have been. That's where I'm just like slack jawed. I'm just like, this dude isn't talking about his product, and he isn't.
You know what the product was, right?
I mean, I know what the product is. HU2.
Yeah. Teaching people how to be like him. And
they're teaching people how to make money. And then the identity play is, I'm Top G. Like, that's, and it's sticky. I think it's funny. So like, I'm in Top G since Thursday.
Yeah, but do you think he actually taught business principles in there, or he was just like, if you act like this, you can be flashy? Like,
I mean, in the course,
there was no business process associated with that. It was just like, if you join this membership, you can be like me, and me is this person.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. The marketing makes like almost no mention, like, because he's encouraging people to put quote or clips up, and the clips just to be polarizing. There's to be controversial. There's to be charged. They never almost. It's like so. Like some of them don't even bring up the course. Maybe they have a link or something. I don't know. But I just think it's so crazy. Like I think it's the truest, most pure form of the idea that attention is the currency. That's what I'm trying to say is like he's not marketing the product directly. He's just like, look at me. And then yes, there is an identity play. There is an identity play where like you want to be like me. Yeah, I got a little thing over here. And it's not the focal point. Like the product is almost the last
It's also
thing.
a numbers game if you do it that way.
The numbers are enormous.
The conversion rate's not, though. That's the thing. The number of views and the amount of attention that person had versus the number of members that converted into the product was very, very low. Versus when I get on a sales call, my close rate is like 90%, right? So I need smaller numbers to do the same amount of conversions, if that makes sense. So the tighter your belief, flagpole is to your product, the higher that conversion rate is.
So anyway, I got
so we're probably saying the same thing, which is, you can either shove people in the funnel or you can make the conversion rate higher and the funnel more effective, but either way you land at the same place and it's where you want to put your energy.
Yeah.
But I think it's easier to come up with a belief system that's closer to what you're actually selling than to make 50% of the global population hate you.
Yeah, you push the big buttons. The big buttons.
The thing is too, like how many dudes actually think like that, and he's one that got all that attention. So having a marketing stance like that doesn't even guarantee you the attention. So that's the problem. And then you've alienated everybody off your product and got no attention at all.
Yeah. Again, like I think just the it's. You know what I kind of look at it as? I kind of look at it as a win-learn. Like what we see is the first iteration of this. And I'll say something else. I've seen other marketers discussing this, and they say this isn't new. Like it's the idea of like just mega affiliates. Like everybody pushes the product to push the product. It's like a pyramid scheme, blah, 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 all that stuff. I saw people talking about that at length on like all these different forums and groups.
Yeah.
But it is one of the first iterations that we've seen of sort of like this this idea of decentralized virality. Like I don't have any, you're talking about like the Grant Cardones and Robert Kiyosaki's. I don't own any houses, but I'm a real estate mogul. That kind of shit. Like I don't actually own anything. My LLC owns it. Which is still like, you own the LLC or whatever. But I think it's kind of crazy, this idea of the minions, okay, here's where I also saw it. Robert Kiyosaki talks a lot about making my money work for me. Each dollar is a worker, and I'm going to put them to work, and I'm going to try to, like, every dollar, I'm going to try to figure out which dollar can make me the most other dollars. That's what it looks like to me. Again, when I'm looking at the blueprint, I'm taking the man out of the picture. I'm taking the belief system out of the picture. I'm putting just a formula. These are variables. Person A plants flag B such that persons A through triple Z push that guy. Like they push that message, they get it out there. Now, I wonder if you can't prop that up without the financial incentive of affiliate stuff. You probably won't be as effective.
Right.
But I wonder, is that like, have we had a glimpse into like, wait, this could be a thing. Like this could be a strategy.
Potentially. I mean, there's other less nefarious ways to use things like that. For my most recent free workshop series that I did, again, I don't do them very often, so mine are like well attended and high converting, but I did something called the Pitch Project. It was a 3-day workshop just about pitching. Putting a pin in that for a second because we were talking about high level conversations. The fact that I could do a 3-day workshop just on one sales tactic like pitching, that's the level of conversation we're having now instead of like 3 tips for getting more exposure on social media. Anyway, back to the pin. To get more people into the workshop, I had an incentive that if you shared I created a reel and I said, if you share this reel to your stories and tag me, I will enter you into a drawing for a free month of Boxer coaching. And we had people sharing it, and the reel promoted the workshop. So I got signups from other people sharing the item with some incentive. So there are win-win ways for people to do that don't actually necessarily involve you paying them.
Okay, two things. You said you created a reel for a
Mhm.
pitch workshop.
Mhm.
How'd you spread it?
Okay.
I missed it.
First of all, reels are like the only thing that gets exposure on Instagram right now. So I created a reel. It was a very simple hook, substance, CTA formula, right? Like, you're not getting what you want in business because you're not asking for it. I went into a little blurb about, why you need to ask for what you want in business and reach out to the person you want to work with. And that's why I created the pitch project. And it's a 3-day workshop, and details are in my bio. Click the link to sign up. Then once they did, they got an automated email a day later after they got their confirmation saying, hey, by the way, if you want to enter to win a month of coaching, share this reel. Here's the link. And so people would share the reel that already had the information about the project, the pitch project in it. And then that was their entry for the coaching. So, and they were able to share once per day and all of that. And then we picked by random number generator. So very simple, didn't cost me anything. And then the more times the reel got shared, the longer the algorithm pushed the reel because it was still getting engagement. It was a very genius, like, if I do say so myself, like marketing tactic that was free because I wasn't going to spend money on ads right now because Apple messed them all up. So I got, the more shares something gets, obviously the more the algorithm pushes it. And reels are one of the longest living pieces of content on Instagram. So they have a longer shelf life, meaning even if they get shared a week later, the algorithm will pick it up and distribute it again. Plus, story views count on reels as well. So every time it got shared, any story views counted on the reel view count.
What do you mean? God, I'm such a fucking boomer. What do you mean story?
So
hey,
when you
I have a problem. I drank a root beer, a coffee, a beer, and a bottle of water during
and you
this.
gotta go.
Yeah. How do we handle this? Do you
On
want to
part
just
two?
explain to the audience how story reels work while I just take a
Sure.
quick little break?
Sure,
all right.
I will.
You know how to do this.
My animals are also dying for me to feed them, so all right, I will share how
When you get done sharing your thing, maybe you could take a break and I'll just talk at a high level about Gears of War. Okay, I know a lot about that game.
Sounds good. All right. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, reels get views when somebody views them in the feed or when obviously somebody shares them and they get looked at. But also, if you share a reel to stories, the views on the story count as views on the reel as well. So what worked so well about this tactic that I was talking about is that every time the reel got shared, in order for somebody who had signed up for the workshop to enter into the giveaway, not only did it count as a piece of high quality engagement on the reel because it got shared, so the algorithm would say, wow, this reel must be really good if people are still sharing it a week later, but they would have to share it to stories, and whoever viewed it from stories counted as a view on the reel as well. So the algorithm picked it up as a share and then as 100, 200, 300 more views. So the reel kept gaining traction. And whenever there's that kind of engagement on the reel itself, then the algorithm starts pushing it organically again. So it was a really nice system that didn't cost anything, because right now ads are just in a tizzy. I'm not an ads expert. We do organic social media marketing. But it was a really good way to get the piece of what would have been a real ad basically shared and distributed both organically and mechanically, I guess, by my audience, and have all of those views in stories count as views on the reel. So it was pretty awesome.
Would you say it was really
It was
awesome?
really good. Yep, it was really awesome.
So, oh my goodness. So something I recognized during this conversation, I feel like I learned something. Well, I've learned a bunch in this conversation. I learned about reels just now.
Yeah.
But the art of conversations. I've recognized that I've always been a bookmarker.
Yeah.
Like I'm seeing that here on this conversation, and that analogy I made about the tree thing and the fork and coming back to the fork meant sort of rewinding the conversation back to an old state.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to give that up because I feel like when I stopped taking the notes of things to come back to, like I feel like as we were talking, I kept looking at the notes, like what else, what else, what else, what else do we need to come back to, and it didn't let the conversation flow, like because
You
I
never got to the leaves on the tree.
right and like
You got
remember because
bare dead branches.
I don't know how we even got here because it started with the whole Gears of War and your emotions and thoughts. Because I was thinking about that, I was like, I never told that story, but if it's like good, almost like good, because like the conversation, I'm like learning how to be a better conversationalist, I believe, where it's sort of like that whole idea, I'm bringing it back to meditation, being present, like just being
Right.
in the moment and having a
Being in the
conversation.
conversation. Yep.
Because whenever you take that little bookmark and you store it right here and you're taking up some of that mental RAM that exists in your brain to hold that little
Yep.
bookmark, and all of a sudden the conversation sucks. Maybe that's why I've never been good at talking to people.
You could quite possibly also never have been good at talking to people because you label yourself as not good at talking to people.
Yeah. Even when I
The
said
words
that,
you use matter.
oh shit. Call back. No, even as I said that, I was
circle.
even as I said that, I did it sort of tongue in cheek because I could fucking talk to a wall. I mean, look at my channel. I just fucking talk to myself on my phone for like fucking an hour sometimes. Yeah, no, I'm pretty fine at it, but I do feel like you can always get better, and I think I just learned like a little bit of lesson just from like my little notepad over here with all the bullshit that I was supposed to come back to. So I think good on that shit. So as now my brain vehemently it searches for like fuck, there was something that we were talking before we got to the reels thing that I would want to come back to. Gears of War was definitely one of them, because the meditation thing is just sort of top of mind because I've been getting more and more into it because I got into stoicism like a while ago, like a year ago, and I've sort of almost kind of stepped back on stoicism. I feel like there's like 2 or 3 cool things that I did learn from stoicism. Well, I learned a lot of stuff from stoicism, but there's a couple points I want to put out there. So Marcus Aurelius was an emperor of Rome.
Sorry, I did not picture the term that we were about to say. Continue. Yes.
But let's remember that Marcus Aurelius
was
the emperor of Rome.
Okay.
So I remember trying to make this point to someone, and I didn't know how to make the point. And the point that I kept making was like, I feel like stoicism just makes me too passive, too weak, too complacent. Like, I feel like life is competitive. It's a little more aggressive, a little more. You got to have desire. You got to have want, and you got to have all this stuff. You can't be like, I'm fine. Like, you can't just be like that. Like, you won't go anywhere. You can't be that. I have everything I need. Like, well, then you're fucking, it's over. Just, what are you going to do now? Go play Gears. Like, so now this is bringing me back to that point. Like, I couldn't think of how to describe this. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome. Legit. If someone pissed him off in a card game, he could pull out like a miniature crossbow, shoot that dude in the throat, and people would, nothing would happen. People would laugh, right? Because shit like that happened. Like this one emperor, like fed this guy his own son as a stew, just to because he was bored. Like, what are they going to do? I'm the emperor. So I think about that, and it's like, well, maybe that dude does need stoicism, like maybe that.
Or maybe he needs to make his kingdom better, like
okay,
refocus or like.
I think though what I'm trying to say. All right, here's the actual point I'm trying to make. I think stoicism. I do feel like it's a bit castrating, and it's like, no, I want to have like the manifest thing. I don't know if I believe in manifesting, but I like that more. It appeals to me more because it's like, here are strategies, which they use the same strategies as stoicism, presence, clearing your mind, because here's some things that they do, I think, a better job of explaining, because it's almost like the Stoics kind of got it, but didn't know why they got it or why it was working. If you read their stuff and then read the manifestation stuff, which is like, if you're present, that means there's only two places you could be, in the future or the past, right? So you're either reliving some shit from your past, which is
depression,
or you're anxious or looking into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So the argument is the only time that you can like create is when you're in the present moment. And I think that almost is an argument for like our conversations doing better, because I'm living in the fucking past. If I have my fucking little notepad over here, I'm like, what are we going to talk about now? So, but like when you're living in the present moment, now you're in a state of creation. Otherwise, if you're reliving the past, this is the cool part of something we mentioned earlier about like the things you don't know what you don't know, the opportunities you don't know you'll get, or the desires you don't know you're going to have once you reach this new point because you've never been there. So if you're in the past, you can't create. This is like the Albert Einstein thing of like, you can't fix a problem using the same consciousness that created it. If you're in the future, well, that's based on your experience from the past. Like whatever you're projecting is all based on
exposure.
Yeah. So the manifest crowd is talking about, well, you know, get present and the universe will provide. It's kind of like basically the gist, which is why I'm like, maybe there's a little bit more to it than that. But the stoicism crowd, I feel like, doesn't necessarily provide that sort of action-oriented desire, like self-improvement. It's more about just like being cool, like not losing your cool. Like Seneca wrote a whole fucking book on anger. And it's just like, anger is the ugliest emotion. Look at your face. You look like a fool. Like that's the whole book. That's where I heard the story. That's where I heard the story about the dude who ate his son. Was like, yeah, that guy didn't get angry and it saved his life. And I was like, that's fucked up, man. Like there were all kinds of stories like that. And so the point I was trying to make about stoicism was that like Marcus Aurelius was the fucking emperor of Rome. Like there was not very much else for him to obtain except a clear fucking mind, right? like,
well, no, because there's always more. And I will argue with that because, you know, was Rome in perfect condition and was he in charge of it? No, you know, there's always more. The lives of the people who were living in his empire, but he was self-focused, so that you're right, there was not much more for him. But given the level of responsibility that he had, was there more for him to do or to achieve? Yes. And he didn't. He just shot people in the throat during card games, apparently.
Not Marcus Aurelius, the bad emperors.
Okay, well,
Marcus Aurelius is like the best emperor of all time.
Yeah,
he's like the last good emperor. But all I'm saying is like, it's like, but then like, okay, I'm still having trouble making this point, right? I'm still having trouble making this point. What I'm trying to say is it didn't further my development. That philosophy did not make me a go-getter. That's what I'm trying to say. And like when you look at the people, there was a slave, Epictetus, who like became very prominent, but it's like, I don't know. It just didn't feel like a blueprint for me. I don't know. That's all I'm saying. Maybe this is the hill I will figure out and die on at some point. Why does he like the computer screen?
He doesn't. He wants to eat. So this is Figaro, everybody. We have a Disney theme for all of the pets. So that is Figaro, which is Geppetto's kitten in Pinocchio. So
is he making noises?
That's Minnie actually crying. We have Minnie and Daisy, the dogs, and Figaro, the cat. And they're all pissed at me right now.
Are they?
They're going to report me to my husband and say, Mom was so evil. She made us wait for dinner.
Should I go on like a top G rant? Where's it? Oh, Jeff's still at work for a while.
Jeff's at work for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's so the
public information.
the meditation stuff. Yeah, so I'm like really into that stuff right now. And I keep circling around to it and coming back to it because it is something that's sort of like at the moment, it is the thing that's like developing me as a person. Is trying to like become more aware of like my subconscious. This is sort of like that whole back to the shedding skin thing. Like what's next? I made a YouTube channel. I said everything I could fucking say about writing an email. I'm going to do some offer stuff. Oh, something that you said that I really liked and I did want to actually come back to was this idea of the pitching workshop. So you did like a whole workshop on pitching.
Just about pitching.
There are topics about copy that I feel like I could do that. Like I feel like if I did a Beats of the Sales letter, I could spend a whole weekend on it. Like,
Yeah, probably.
I don't want to turn this into like a how-to podcast. It's supposed to be a conversation. But like, how did you convince people to go to your pitching thing?
I wrote a good landing page. And I told them, no. So here was the messaging around it, right? Like I had a landing page. I talked about it on social media. It was the first workshop I'd run in a while. It was free. It was 3 days. So there are a couple reasons.
Oh, it's free.
Yeah, it was free.
And then you upsell them to become clients?
Yeah,
Is that the,
and I sold $30,000 worth of client spots from that workshop. Plus, I think probably a little more because we've still got a couple people hanging on because it wasn't that long ago. So the sales, for those of you in online business, the sales life cycle has lengthened during this recession. It is not going to be as quick to get somebody converted, but that doesn't mean your sales cycle is over after your workshop's over. There are still people in your pipeline. So it was free. It was a 3-day workshop. I think people have gotten tired of automated webinars. Yeah, at least in our space, right? Like I'm very, very focused on my industry, right? Like I don't do financial, I don't do real estate, I do business coaching. People have gotten in the business coaching space very tired of automated webinars. They've gotten tired of workshops that are just very surface level. They've gotten tired of not having time to actually implement anything that they've been told because the webinar is an hour long and the actual substance is 20 minutes and in between is pitch, social proof. So I made it 3 days. It was pitch prep, pitch process, and follow-up. Day 1, day 2, day 3 was an hour each day. There was actual time to work on pitching. And the idea was that if I could get somebody a response from a client or company they would never have dreamed they could work with during this week, they will never go anywhere else for a business coach. Like if I could teach you in 3 days to get a response from that company that you never thought would work with you, like why would you look for another business coach? I told you how to send the email that gets them to respond to you. So that was the idea.
You'd have to be a real shitbag to go somewhere else.
No, I'm just saying you're not, because I'm top of mind now, because now you're working with this dream client going, oh my God, if it wasn't for that workshop, I would never be doing this. The other thing that I did was on the this cat on the confirmation page. I know. On the hey, thanks, you're registered confirmation page, I upsold to a 30-minute coaching slot. The reason being is, all right, if the people take this offer, they're definitely looking for coaching. So they're either going to end up in the mastermind or in my one-on-one, right? Like they're already looking for coaching because they're already willing to spend money on it. It was super discounted. It was only 30 minutes, but if they take this, they're people who are great candidates for coaching because they're already looking for that type of support actively. So that was the upsell. Then we had the little giveaway thing with the reel sharing to promote the thing. Then we only kept the replays active for a week. So people had access to it for a week and then it disappeared. So during that, after it was over, during that next 7 days, I was sending emails. How is pitching going? Are you catching up on the replays? But I sent what's called a 9-word email. I can't remember who invented the 9-word email, but it's almost like a personal email rather than a sales email. It's like, hey, pitch project ended last week. Just wanted to check in and see how pitching was going. So it's almost like a personal email, but you send it as a blast to the participants, and then you actually respond to the replies. It's just a conversation starter. So off of that one workshop, the idea was to make it very personal. It's a preview of what it's like to coach with me because it avoids all those other things that people are tired of with funnels. You get results, you have time to implement, the process from start to finish, you go really in depth on the topic, shows off my higher level knowledge about what I do, identifies the people who are ready for coaching, and allows me to follow up and have conversations. So it checked all the boxes.
So
it was a really good workshop.
You really thought this out.
Everything was intentional, right? Like I'm not just going to throw a masterclass up on the internet just because I felt like it, right? Like what was the goal? The goal was to get, well, you can do that too if the masterclass is the goal, right? If the goal is to just do it because you want to do it. My goal was to get people in my mastermind and my one-on-one coaching. So That's how I set it up, was to get that
Interesting.
result.
Okay, so your end goal was the mastermind. Now, do you have? Because I know you do coach. You kind of did the coach thing. You kind of like said no more coaching. Coaching's kind of blah. And then you're like, okay, I'm gonna do some coaching. And then you have the mastermind thing.
Mhm.
So, do you have? Are all these high? You have like pre-recorded courses and stuff at a lower price point or something like that. Like,
Yeah, my product suite's pretty extensive at this point. I've been doing this for a long time. So I have the private coaching, which is kind of the top level product. The mastermind, which is, I mean, honestly, they could coincide. If you wanted to be in the mastermind and have private coaching, you could do both. So they're kind of both top high ticket offers.
top G.
Then there's the Bizfluencer Bootcamp, which is getting a revamp in the next 6-ish months. That's our
Bootcamp?
Bizfluencer Bootcamp. So that's our like marketing
Biz
course with our, and this is where I think it's important to have like frameworks that you've invented, right? It teaches our C4 marketing framework, which, listen, we've got a trademark application. Nobody used that. You're not allowed to touch it. Because it's a framework. It's a framework that we invented.
Trademarked or something. I can't. I don't think
you could.
I don't think it's going to happen.
But it's important to have a process that you take people through, because if you want our C4 marketing framework, you can only get it inside the boot camp. You can't get it anywhere else. So if you think that's the framework that makes the most sense, if I've sold you that that's the way to market, you have to buy the product because you can't learn it anywhere else. So that's the idea. Then there is Visual Content Academy, which teaches you how to make really good looking content. There's Real Fast Growth, which is our Reels course. And then there is our monthly membership, which is the Influence Content Hub. So there's a lot of like space.
How much are you charging for your monthly membership?
Right now it is $49.
See, shit, top G. So look, that's what I was thinking about recently. So I have gone through that cycle. So Copy Squad started at $59 a month, and we had too many people. Like, because I was doing everything. I was the sole coach. And I was like, well, fuck this. And so I just kept bumping up the price. I went $79, $129, and still too many people. Then I went to $500 a month, and it's settled down, or $5,000 a year. $5,000 a year is that's the deal, because you get all my products if you just do the year thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, cool. But what we found with our, like, again, we're just sort of getting our footing as an info pub going. Like, it wasn't until 2022 that I started to take this seriously about selling copywriting training and stuff. And what we're finding, the things that seem to be doing best for us sort of hover between that like 80 to like low hundreds, $120 like price point. Okay. We got these products that are like $500, more than like the 200, something like that. And they just we don't really get the traction. And so I've been thinking about like having watched the episode, again, the blueprint that I've been describing this whole call from Top G. I was like, well, shit, dude, like 49 seems to be that jump. So I'm thinking about doing like a Copy Squad Lite, Copy Squad Inner Circle, but Copy Squad Lite, where you sort of get a certain amount of access, or like we're going to start doing live trainings every month for $37 or something like that. Well, if you pay $49 a month, you get the training automatically. So it's $37 saved right there, like automatically it's built into that price. And then you get, I don't know, some other stuff. We have a bunch of stuff. We're trying to put that product together right now. Because I feel like I went through that same thing where it was like, I'm so tired. I mean, and I really like, I really like all the people I worked with and the come up story and all that stuff that I had of like coaching and teaching. It got overwhelming. And again, it was like, kind of like such rookie basic stuff to start for $59 a month. And that's like my time. Meanwhile, you know, it
becomes unscalable to have the same conversation over and over and over again when you know that after a certain level of experience working with beginners or working with people in that level, that their problems are not unique, right? Like they have the same problem over and over again, and you can create a solution for them that doesn't require you to spend time in there with them fixing it. So that's what we're saying. We love beginners, but it doesn't require me to coach you through it, is what we're saying.
Right. And especially if like, you know, like one-on-one time, time, it's like, bro, you're going through that same sort of level one thing that the other 4,000 people in your shoes are going through. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't need one-on-one time for this. It's always the same, like 3 or 4 problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not like a circle. It's sort of like a loop-de-loop, like Hot Wheels. Like I kind of loop out and I like do a new circle, but it's, you were doing your one-on-one coaching, like, no more of that. But then you're kind of like, well, maybe there is a way to do it, but just do it differently.
Right.
And so I'm coming back to that idea, like, well, what could I do? Because I had the most people. I still have people because I grandfather people in. I don't raise anybody's prices.
Right.
If you were paying $59 then, you're paying $59 today. So I still got a handful of people from like 2018 who are still paying $59 to be inside the Copy Squad Inner Circle. And I'm not going to raise their prices or anything, but it's like, that was a killer price point that was doing a lot of traction. Mm-hmm. People who left, they don't get to keep that. They lose that. But, I've just been thinking about that a lot.
Yeah, memberships are interesting because it's like the content has to be refreshed. Like there has to be something they're getting every month rather than the same access every month, which does require time. For us, my team puts together a content calendar and updated like trends, and we do a strategy call once a month sort of thing. So it's sort of like your one-stop shop for what's working on social media right now. Because if I create the reason this is better than like a course is because if I create a social media course right now in 6 months, it's outdated. It has to be updated again. So if I'm going to be doing all the work about updating a course, I might as well make a membership out of it. So it made a little bit more sense for us to do it that way.
Did you ever dabble in the SEO game?
We do.
Search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm. We do that.
Your agency?
We offer that as a service for clients. Yeah, for our agency clients. We do SEO-based content strategy. So what we'll do is we'll run a whole big analysis of their whole site and their competitor sites and all these keywords and all these topics or whatever. And we create topics based on all that data, that SEO research. And then we'll write copy that we kind of know ahead of time is going to crush it for their site and drive traffic to their site. So yeah,
that's wicked.
We do big content audits like that.
One time, so like when I had to make a decision if I was going to pursue copy or SEO, because I was kind of like looking at both, and I went with copy. And the deciding factors for me was like looking at copy. It's a psychology game, so it's a little more timeless. And I remember like in the midst of me learning SEO, this penguin thing happened with Google, and I was like, what the fuck now? Like everything changed. And I was like, well, I just sat here and learned all this shit and it doesn't work. So I was like, all right, I'm going with copy. Like I'm not doing that shit again. So you said something like the social media thing changing. I had that moment with the SEO where I was like, I'm not going to be an SEO guy. I give it up. I don't want it.
I'm not doing that.
Oh, hell no. She was annoying.
No, it's staying on top of your game in your field is something I believe everybody should do. But if your field is constantly if it's constantly reducing you to the level of not an expert anymore by how much it's changing, that's a little frustrating.
Yeah. I think one of the cool things about copy is the foundations, like the issues will change. And I went to an event called Financial Marketing Summit. And it was just a bunch of financial publishers and marketers and stuff in a room. But Porter Stansberry was there. Porter Stansberry is a very influential figure in the financial publishing space because he started Stansberry Research and the MarketWise companies, which are public, billion-dollar public traded company now, owns all these different financial publishers. And he did a presentation. One of the big points that he said that now resonates and it sort of reverberates in this conversation, this ongoing thread we've had about taking a stand and planting your flag and all that, is he said, don't be afraid to tackle bigger issues. He says, in fact, the bigger the issue, the better. He says copywriters are always, they're trying to it's a lot of publishers have a bit of a disdain for copywriters because they're always trying to game the system, make more royalties. And I have a sense of agreement about this. They're kind of annoying in their own ways.
That's a stance, by the way.
The copywriters are annoying?
Yeah. And here's why. Don't be an annoying copywriter. Here's how to not be annoying.
You're about to trigger me. This could be one of my rants. I have a rant.
Well, make it quick. My dogs are about to bite my legs off. Continue.
You don't have headphones like me. You can't listen to me talk everywhere you go. Oh, you do?
No, mine are wired. My Bluetooth ones, what the fuck is Bluetooth? My Bluetooth ones are charging, so
It's 2022. I
I
didn't know
don't
they
like
still.
them.
Does this computer have a headphone jack? It's like a DVD port, man. Like what
Mine
the
needs an
hell?
upgrade. My computer does need an upgrade, but copywriters are annoying. Take a stand on copywriters being annoying. You were about to go into a rant. Go.
Here's what I'll do. I'll start with the mission statement of like the copy squad. I can feel it bubbling up. Like,
But that's how you know it's the one.
Okay, I think. Ooh,
because you actually care about it. You could talk about this all day because you actually give a shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So, because I've been a copy chief, and I've been a
Yeah.
copywriter, and I've been an agency owner, and
Yep.
I've tried to build and help build companies and publishers, and I screen hard for these sorts of things now, but like copywriters are often short-term greedy, which is annoying. And
Okay.
part of my whole thing with the Copy Squad agency as a copywriting agency is, dude, straight up honestly, I want to eliminate the in-house copywriter position. I think it's stupid because of the amount of rigmarole that a publisher and copy chief has to go through. First off, most copy chiefs don't actually have a fucking system for training copywriters. They're just like going with their gut. And I've had copywriters come to me like the publisher gives them feedback, but then the copy chief refutes the feedback, or vice versa. And it's like they're at odds, and the copywriter's just like, I want to just get my idea out. And these two are arguing about which part of the idea they like best. It's because neither one have a fucking system. It's how they feel that morning before they have breakfast, like how they're going to determine if this copy is any good or not. So that's not the copywriter's fault. But coming from a publisher and copy chief perspective, like the amount of time you have to invest in a copywriter to actually figure out if they're any good can be anywhere from 6 to 12 months, depending on how fast you get projects out the door.
Right.
It takes about 10 projects before you recognize if this person has potential, if they're coming along or not. 6 to 10 projects. Right. So, like, I want to take all that shit off your plate. Here's the other problem. Once I take it off your plate, I become the sole monopoly for copywriting talent. They can't do this coach hopping. They can't do this pub hopping. Pub hopping. That's what they do. I've been there and I've seen them come to me. Here's what they do. They accrue a salary they pretty much don't deserve because their position is a revenue generator, which they don't do. Because it's a 99-1 game. It's a 99-1. 99% of copywriters aren't worth a shit. 1% are generally building the whole business. There's usually like some guerrilla copywriter within the ranks that's actually done 80 to 99% of the revenue generation. I've seen it everywhere we go. So these dudes do the pub hopping. The dudes who aren't the main generators, they're not collecting the 6-figure royalty checks. They're collecting like the $5,000-$6,000 royalty checks. And they're like, well, I could probably make this anywhere, but I might get a little salary bump. So they go in a fucking carousel, in a circle, pub house to pub house. And they say, you know what? I'm thinking about, seeing what else is out there. Then they gather all their offers and they go back to their copy chief who trained them, who invested them, who poured themselves into them. I talked about this with Todd Brown. You open yourself up to this shit when you start investing in people. They come back and go, yay, I've been doing a lot of copy around here, a lot of work. I feel like, production's backed up. It's not going through fast enough. My ideas aren't getting the love they deserve. And so offered me 6 figures.
XYZ. Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, bitch, you ain't never made a 6-figure promotion. Like, who the fuck are you coming in here with that bullshit right now? And they'll leave and they'll go get it. And then they'll put that shit on their LinkedIn and be like, I'm a $1 million copywriter. And it's like, this should go on until someone gets wise. Or as I've done, I call the dude they're working for and I say, yo, such and such just showed up. Like, I don't know if you know. Can you tell me a little bit about him? Like, something like. Okay, I'll take that back. I usually don't call their boss. I think that's fucked up. I don't call their boss. I call people who've been in the game well longer than me and probably know this person's name. And I'm like, what do you think about so-and-so? That's what I do. I actually don't call their boss. I take that back.
It's called checking references.
Check references. So I call around like, hey, this dude says he wrote $1 million promo for such and such. I know you were the marketing guy at such and such. What's the story with that promo? Oh, yeah, that dude with another writer wrote it. It sucked. The two of them both fucked it up. The copy chief rewrote the whole thing and it did $1 million.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so is the copy chief
so
that's responsible.
yeah, so how much of their contribution do you think was still intact? Oh, I wouldn't piss on them if they're on fire. It's like, oh, well, shit. They told me they were top G, right?
Top
So,
G, yeah.
right. So I want to relieve the publishers and the copy chiefs of our industry of that problem, because I will screen and I will train and I will make sure that there's a certain quality to our product and there will be a system to it, and it will have to maintain very specific standards before it goes out the door. And so there isn't this haphazard spaghetti approach to writing copy, which is kind of prevalent right now. And so if you do that, then all you have to do is, just when you need a promo, you simply, just like McDonald's, you come to the copy squad. You order one promotion. Dude with the little paper hat says, "Get that right for you, sir." Turns around, turns right back around 30 seconds later. Here's that promo you ordered, and it'll work. Good luck,
Yep. Because
pleasure
there's a
doing
formula.
business.
And you'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah. So we have a launch coming together right now that apparently is going to be like well supported by a couple of big lists. And there are a couple, like, here's the thing. Now I'm on a fucking tirade. Now I'm on a fucking rampage. You could have went and fed the dogs while I did this, but you should have wired earphones. So there's a promo coming out, and I'm knocking on wood, but I don't think we have to. That's going to be pretty well supported. And I want this thing to absolutely just zoom through 7 figures, because there have been a couple pubs, and this is where I sympathize with them. Every financial publisher laid off like 100 people in like the last 3 months. I don't know if everyone's aware of this in the marketing space, but like financial publishers just went bloodbath. And so
that's everywhere. That's every industry. That real estate brokerages are doing the same thing.
Okay. So business has slowed. We had someone leave the table. Like, we had basically already begun work, and they're like, "Well, I don't think this, I think we have to come back to this." I take that kind of shit personal. Like, you realize working with us makes you money. And
that's the wild thing about marketing, is like, that is the last thing people will budget for, but it is the thing that people like. It is the thing that brings you more money. I'm so confused.
Yeah. So when someone does that, it says a signal to me that I don't believe you'll make me money. And so I take that very personally, because that's what we do. That's what I do. And I believe I'm top G at that. So, like, I want this fucking next launch to absolutely just decimate. I want it to be like, I want it to hurt people's feelings that someone else got this launch and worked with us and not them, because they were like, "Well, we got a lot on our plate right now," and blah, 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 blah. It's just like, no. So that's like copywriters. That's my rant on copywriters. That's my rant on publishers who didn't absolutely jump at the chance to work with the Copy Squad agency. Like, that's my chip on the shoulder, teach you a lesson sort of thing. Is like, I'm gonna go over to some sort of dinky dunk publisher, right? You with your Mega Millions bullshit, and you're laying off half your workforce. I'm gonna go to some dinky dunk $10-15 million pub and turn them into a $50 million pub, and you'll be like, "Oh shit," I just laid off, another half of my workforce over here, and Copy Squad over there is tearing up for some other fucking publisher who's never made $1 million in a week.
That's funny.
So
you got that Michael Jordan motivation.
Oh yeah, I took that shit
whole
personally.
Like, he got rejected from, or didn't make the JV team his first year in high school.
Yeah, he made the varsity team. You got to make the JV,
no,
right?
He didn't make the team.
Really?
He did not make the basketball team for his freshman year of high school, and he talked about it in his Hall of Fame acceptance speech.
I remember seeing that. Like, he like ripping everyone apart. Like, who didn't?
Like, I'll show you, Coach such and such, who is retired and dead now. Like,
yeah. Oh,
but that's that motivation level, right? Like, turning your haters into your motivation.
Yeah. So anyway, I feel like you've got to go feed these dogs, but I haven't told you how Gears of War is like your emotions yet.
Go for it.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, so Gears of War.
And how did you explain to your dad that Gears of War is like your emotions? After you explained to him what Gears of War was.
Well, I'll explain it to you, and then you'll see the whole thing.
Can't wait. Go
So
for it.
Gears of War,
Okay.
you are the Gears of War, and you're fighting against the Locusts. The Locusts are the bad guys, and the Locusts come out of the ground. They have these little holes in the ground that pop out. They're called emergence holes. And this
Okay.
is where all the locusts start coming out, and you just got pow, 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 pow. And they keep coming until you throw a grenade inside of the E hole, the emergence hole.
Okay.
And I was like, when you really think about it, your emotions are E holes. And all your negative thoughts are the locusts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just keep coming out, and they just keep coming out, and they can overrun you. You got to figure out a way. You got to take a frag. Got to throw that frag in the E hole, the emotion hole, and close that shit up so that
take care of the problem at the source.
Right. So I forget how me and him got on that topic, but I think it's just because, again, like I've been sort of diving into this idea of like our pre-programmed subconscious, and so I've been just like talking about it with anybody who's like within talking distance of me.
And I was your latest victim, and your dad.
No, you
I'm
loved
just kidding.
it.
I loved it. But so here's another thing on emotion. I recently heard, and it must have been Brene Brown or somebody alike to Brene Brown, that pointed out that anger is a secondary emotion. Anger comes about. It's not a primary emotion, meaning you don't get angry alone. You get angry because you're feeling something else, which I think is where a lot of guys have a lot of trouble, because anger is the only emotion that they've ever been allowed to express without somebody calling them a, sissy or whatever, because they're feeling frustrated, rejected, sad, anxious, whatever. But it comes out as anger because anger is secondary. Isn't that funny?
Oh my God, no, it's funny is a good word for it, because it's not funny. It's just we're saying funny because it's so
sad.
Well, I'm just gonna like +1 this or thumbs up it or upvote it. Like there's so much truth to that. I remember I was talking to one of my friends. This is college days. My friend, I grew up with this guy, and out of nowhere during our college years, he had like a thing that I'm not sure he ever recovered from, and he became depressed. And I think it started with a girl and a breakup, and I think he never got around it. And it's a lot of this stuff today, like this mental health, this meditation stuff, I think there's a lot of truth to like he probably got in this weird sort of cycle of like, I'm worthless because this girl dumped me and moved on within a week. And then he beat himself up, and he didn't need these pills that he was taking, because he started taking like a lot of like antidepressants and Prozac stuff and like all that. And I remember talking to him about it, and I was like, man, like, what happened? Like, why? Like, you didn't need this shit in high school. Like, you were like, what's going on? And he's like, I'm not like you. And he's like, you're this way and I'm that way. And I was like, dude, I remember us talking about it, and I was like, I just don't like. I was like, the only emotion that I know how to even express is anger. Like I've used it to get me through college, through grad school, to get me now through like copyright. Like even in that little rant, like the only thing that I know how to express is legitimately what you said. The only thing I know how to, like, when I had that anxiety, I didn't even know I was having a different emotion. I didn't know. Don't compute. Does not recognize other emotion.
Yeah.
And there was I gave you a more specific, like acute example of what you're describing. We had a promo that was coming up on deadline. This was a writer that I used to work with back in the day, and we were coming up on deadline, and this was, I want to say, like our 7th or 8th draft, and I got heated.
Was this when you were at my house?
Maybe. So I got heated. Like this shit had me heated that we weren't through this. However, I had already started like thinking about my thoughts, paying attention, being an observer. And I said to myself, I started asking questions. I was like, all right, why am I mad now on draft 8? But I wasn't mad on draft 1 through 7. I was very patient, and I was like, here's the mistakes you're making. Here's how we can fix this. And I was very, solution oriented. But now I'm just over the top. And I thought about it. I was like, well, it's because the deadline. Well, why the deadline?
You're feeling anxious.
I felt, I was anxious, I think is a good way to describe it. I think really the more even like basic level was fear, because I have a certain, like, I do think I'm really good at what I do. And I do believe I'm one of the tops at it. And so this would reflect poorly on that identity. And it made me like scared. Like that's my almost like my imposter syndrome creeping in that you're going to be found out. You're going to be found out. You actually don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
They're going to know that you're not that good. And then you're going to be, not top G anymore.
And they're all going to laugh at you, and they're all going to talk about you 10 years from now. Remember that guy who thought he could do it? Yeah.
And all those thoughts, like it goes through like this filter system. No matter what the thoughts are, the feelings, they go through this like filtration system. They come out anger. Like there's have you ever, Aqua Teen Hunger Force? Does that make any sense? Okay.
Yes.
There's this one. All right, there's one episode where Master Shake gets this smartphone, but it weighs like 1,000 pounds and it's a helmet that covers his whole face and he has like goggles. And he buys all these attachments for the smartphone. And one of them is the E-Ano. And it's what it is. It's a grand piano that he straps to his back like a backpack.
Right.
And it's just playing like this ragtime music. And he says, "Oh, does it play any other songs?" And Shake says, "It plays all the songs." That's right. It can select any song and converts them into this song. So it's always playing the same ragtime tune, but it's like no matter what song you select, what it does is it digitally converts it into this song.
Yeah, this song.
And that's kind of how emotions are, I think, for many. I can't say many dudes because I don't know all dudes, but like I resonate with that concept that you just brought up. It felt like, when you're reading a book in the first couple chapters, like, hey, they're talking about me. And again, like I'm unpacking all that right now. I'm learning like, wait, there are other emotions like guilt and shame. They do the same thing. Like even if you feel shame about some stupid shit, then you're like, idiot. Like, and that comes out as anger,
really
right?
Yep. Mad at yourself, mad at such and such because you're feeling a different way initially.
Yeah. So that thing about anger being a secondary emotion, that shit does anger even stand on its own? Does it?
I don't know. I can't name you an instance where it does because, let's say somebody really betrays you and, you're hurt first. And then you're angry at them for making you feel that way, right? Like, because if it didn't matter to you, you wouldn't, if you didn't care initially, you wouldn't be angry because you'd be like, wow, that person sucks. Bye. But like, because you were hurt, now you're angry. Or because you feel shocked or because you feel betrayed, now you feel angry. I can't even think of an instance where you wouldn't get some other emotion prior to anger. Isn't that strange?
Yeah, like to start.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, you feel betrayed, so you get angry. Like the feeling is like, it's weird because how words fail you with feelings. Like I feel X, like I feel betrayed. I'm trying to think of other ways to frame it. And it's like, this is the only way I can think to say it.
That's the closest word in English. Yeah.
Yeah. That's some deep shit. I love shit like that. I love talking about shit like that.
It helps you, like, saying it in a different way sometimes is the way that makes you get it. That's why I always tell my clients too, like, there's no such thing, if you're doing things right in business, there's no such thing as a market that's too crowded because you're going to say it differently or you're going to have a different process or system or belief around it that's going to click with somebody where it never clicked before.
Well, you've probably worked with someone where you've told them the same thing 10,000 times, and then you said it just slightly different the 10,001st time, and then they're like, "Oh, why don't you say that?" And it's like,
yeah, because I'm different and they're different, and my words are different at the same time, right? Like, you could tell me the exact same sentence today and a year from now, and it'll land differently a year from now because I'm different. So timing is a component as well.
That's good shit. But I do feel like as we're approaching the 3-hour mark and your cat
got that watch time up. I've been stiff arming him for an hour and a half.
I know, and I really appreciate you for doing that. That really means a lot to me. It makes me feel very special that you would be.
I've never done a podcast interview this long, only for you.
Something I thought of like this morning? We have done this before when I was doing the All 99 thing.
Did we?
We did this. We did
Not
this
for 3 hours. We didn't.
For like 45 minutes. It was unheard of back then to go 3 hours.
Then you
like 2013. Yeah, watch time. Well, the trick is here's the trick, and this is why this content had to come over here. Is it's average, it's like average view duration, and that's a percentage of your whole video.
Mhm.
So we had this average view duration of like, I don't know, 11%. And then we put a 3-hour podcast on, and the average view duration, someone watch 10 minutes or 3 hours, is like less than 1% or something.
Yep.
And all of a sudden so I'm not going to delete or move my old ones because I want to keep the live chats and stuff on there alive and whatever. But lesson learned, and now we're going to do it all over here. I do think there's a lot of cool little snippets and clips about marketing stuff that we could probably take from this. I took some cool ideas and concepts from you, like the workshop stuff and a bunch of other stuff too. So we can clip it, put it over there.
One of my free workshops is going to be about workshops. It's going to be workshopception. I'm not kidding. I'm going to do a few more, and then I'm going to nail down.
Are you going to title it? Are you going to title it workshopception? No.
I'll probably title it something cutesy because again, I work with a lot of women, so I gotta title it like "Work Your Workshop" or something. That's the title now. Now I gotta use it.
Work your workshop. Okay, I'm not mad.
A little Beyonce, like work your workshop.
I gotta come out North Carolina and check out the farmhouse again.
You do. It's a good time.
When are you guys gonna make a Miami vacation trip or something?
I'll tell you what. We are going to Florida, but we're going to Orlando, and then Tampa. I'm going to Tampa for a business retreat. So no Miami yet, but soon because we have friends in that whole area. So we need to. I mean, aside from you, but like we also have other friends in the area too. We have to make a trip. We lived in Miami for a summer.
Okay. We know some actual cool people down there.
No, we know you, but I'm saying like we have multiple people that we need to come see.
All right. You get just imagine this like drive by my house. Hey guys.
Meet you at the drive-thru at McDonald's.
Oh shit. All right. Well, Donata, this is fantastic. I'm gonna put a link to some of your products and stuff in the description after this. So if anyone wants to like check out your stuff, Mastermind products, et cetera, that'll be there later. Just you send me that stuff or something in an email.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Our websites are getting redone, so you're gonna see some brand new-ish coming soon.
All right, cool. Well, thanks very much for coming. I'm glad that you came. I think a 3-hour conversation is a testament to just how good of friends we are. I want to reassert
the
we're the best of friends. And
the best of friends.
Have like we do have a fucking crazy similar parallel sort of story arc as we were talking. I was like, damn, that's exactly the shit that I did. So that's cool, man. I think that's why the reason you're friends with Jeff too. It's like we're the same person. So he's got like the bro friend version and the wife version. Yeah. He's got a dude that'll talk Dark Souls with him. I was gonna ask you about that too. Is like, are you also like, do you watch? Like, are you? Like, I watched it.
Yeah, that's like our little thing that we do on the weekends. It's like he plays his video game. I stay for the cutscenes. I fall asleep on the couch. Like, it's. I find that okay. Hold on. What's your love language? Do you know? Mine is acts of service, and secondary is words of affirmation. So fits neither. I'm not a quality time. Quality time is third, then physical touch, and then gifts is like way last for both of us. He is a physical touch person, which I find like a huge percentage of dudes are physical touch people. Again, because you're not allowed to hug your bros without being called names. So like we're deprived. They're touch starved. So he's a physical touch person, and then I think he's either quality time or words of affirmation. So like it's very much for him, but I'm cool with it because it's fine. Like I get to hang out on the couch all weekend. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm definitely a physical touch person because I do think there is something to that. Like I don't know, I'm not a very handsy or touchy person, so it's like a door I rarely open, and when it it's like only a handful of people get to touch this. And so it is sort of like it's like, I guess that makes me a physical touch person. It's like if I allow that to go down. Also, like once I became like a manager and like with all the Me Too stuff, like I created like this weird like 10-foot perimeter around me where it's like I don't even want people to take a picture of me in a physical proximity with this person. Yeah. I hate to say that. Like I'm not trying to like, but I just felt like it was like a heightened thing where like
everybody was on alert. Like,
thing is, you can't make somebody uncomfortable if you're not in their space either. So like you were also being considerate of others as well by doing
no,
that.
I was looking out for number one. I didn't give a fuck about them.
I
like,
was trying to give you an out, sir.
No,
really
I'm gonna be
help.
honest with you, dude. I was just like, I don't want this to turn into like and like, you know, and I feel like I feel it's a teeny tiny target when you go online and be like, I'm top G and I do all these revenues and millions of dollars and all that stuff. And it's like, well, I don't want to, maybe I just stay in my house and just make sure I don't touch anybody. So I guess the point I was trying to make was like, I think the whole thing of having your old lady like watching you play video games, I like it. I think that's like a romantic thing. Like when you said like I stay for the cutscenes, like I had like sort of like a heartwarming sensation moment there. I was like, ah.
Listen, I love RPGs because I love video game cutscenes. I will watch somebody else play Zelda the whole way through. I don't want to play because the monsters make me nervous. But listen, the first time, for any of you we're getting back into a conversation, but whoever has played Breath of the Wild, all right, we're waiting for the second one. We've been waiting for years. Nintendo, get your shit together. But the first time I tried playing it, I got to the first guardian and it was just like a one-hit guardian, right? Like it was a slap it with your sword, shoot an arrow at it, it's gonna die guardian, like little beetle guardian looking thing. I got so flustered and couldn't push the buttons, I just threw the controller down and left. I was like, ah! I get I'm great at the controls until I have to actually use them in a high pressure situation. So it's not like I look at the monsters and I'm like, ooh, scary. I'm like, I can't make my hands do the thing when I'm under pressure, you know?
Okay.
I'm sick at Mario Kart though. I'll tear you up into Mario Kart.
So I've actually, I've never been like a Mario Kart guy. I feel like everyone loves to get super competitive. I'm a Smash Bros guy.
My brother's a Smash Bros guy. And he will also tear you up at that. He is. When I say the dude's got experience and Nintendo has longevity, he used to play the N64 every single day for hours with his friends at the pool. They would hook it up to the TV at the inside part of the pool when it was like raining or when there wasn't enough people there, and they would play all day long, Super Smash Brothers all day long. And the people who
it's like
lost,
a public pool.
No, it was like a pool that we joined, like a membership pool.
Yeah, but it's a pool where there's other like people, not your backyard.
Yeah, there's other people there.
And he took his Nintendo to it.
Yeah, him and his friends would play like in the like clubhouse area.
Okay.
And so they would all play together. They would all bring in their controllers and they'd play Super Smash Brothers, and he would play for hours. I mean, he's probably logged 10,000 hours on. He's a Super Smash Bros expert. And simultaneous to that, Nintendo has kept their control scheme largely the same for the last 30 years. So the buttons are the same on the Joy-Cons and on the N64 controller.
I personally am still like I'm a 64 guy. Like the 64
I love
Smash Bros. My favorite one.
The N64 is like one of the top video game consoles of all time. Ocarina of Time was so good. I remember just being amazed by that game.
Oh yeah, the 64 version of Smash, like there's like two things that bug me out in the Switch version, which I think is the D-pad, like the joystick going up is also jump. I want to eliminate that. Like I want to get that. I want to be able just to hit the jump button. And the other issue is I like to like have this like chase and then I jump and then turn around, like if I'm Link or something, and like throw a boomerang. But the problem is like, there's a directional move now, so I can't just turn and do the move. It executes. Yeah, it executes a directional move. So if I'm Mario and I want to do the chase thing, spin around and do the fireball, I end up doing a little cape move. This is getting way in the weeds of nerddom forest. All right, we're in there. We're deep. Anyway.
They added moves to this game that were not there originally, so you've got to change how you play.
I know, and I'm a boomer now. I don't think I can't age into boomerdom.
You're still a millennial. Just millennials are old now. Okay, I'm going to tell one funny story, and then we have to go. All right. It's about us being old now.
Okay.
I was going to get my content director is one of my really good friends from when we started. We both started like beauty vlogging on YouTube at the same time. So like we're really good friends. We've been knowing each other for 10 years. We're going to Florida and she's going to meet us where we're at. And I was going to get her daughters some gifts. And so I was going to get her older daughter, who's 11, a belt bag, which by the way is the new way the kids are calling fanny packs, because saying fanny pack is very millennial, very 90s, but the 90s are back. So they needed to bring fanny packs back, but call them something cool. So now they're called belt bags. Anyway.
Okay.
I was going to get myself
a
belt bag for walking around the theme park, right? Well, I was going to get her oldest a matching one. And I was like, we can match. We can have matching belt bags. That'd be so cute, right? Tell me, I told my friend, I was like, would she use a bag like this? Because I'm going to get the girls some gifts. Tell me why this little girl said, I need to see a picture first. She didn't want to match me if it wasn't cute, and she didn't trust me to pick out something cute without her rubber stamping it.
Oh, because you're an oldie.
Because I'm old.
Because you're out of touch.
Because I'm not cool. It's not like I lived through the 90s the first time or anything. So she had to rubber stamp the belt bag that we were gonna match.
I'm gonna one up your old person story. All right, I've got one for you. So I'm at the cigar bar. This girl hit me twice in one night. All right, so we're at the cigar bar, and it's a Saturday. Like, how do I explain it? I go to cigar bars. That's that's what I do. It's kind of like part of my whole little gimmick. That's kind of like who I am as a person. I go.
It helps productivity.
Yeah, so I go to cigar bar. So I'm in the cigar bar. It's college night. It's like a bajillion FAU students there, like a bajillion. Right. I'm like, what the shit? So I go into the humidor.
So many, barely could get in.
No, I'm talking like wall to wall.
Yeah.
They're doing like some sort of event, like this sorority thing. So I go into the humidor to go buy a cigar, and they're talking about, wow, this is so great event. And I was like, oh, are you responsible? This little girl, are you responsible for all this? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, well, cool, good job. And she said, you know what's crazy though? She's like, I didn't realize like, so many older people would be here. I didn't expect it, like, how did they know to come tonight? And she asked me as if I was the ambassador of old folks. Like, oh, let me, like, I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? How did you know to come tonight? What the fuck? This is a cigar bar.
You think you have a monopoly on fun because you're 20 something?
Yeah, right. So she said, like, how did all the older folks know to come tonight? And she like,
we're always here, Allie.
Yeah. So then later she's walking around with like Jello shots in the shot tray, and I'm like, hey, sweetheart, let me get one of those. So I call her over. She gives me a shot, and she goes, I was like, how much? She said, $2, $3, $4, I don't know, some dollars. And I was like, cool. I'll take one for me, one for my boy. And she was cool. She goes, all right, do you have Venmo? And before I can answer, she goes, do you know what Venmo is? And I was like,
and then you threw the Jello shots back in her face. You were angry because you were first feeling what?
I don't know. I felt
rejection,
a lot of feelings.
Irrelevance.
I said something like, I think what I said was like
depressing weight of time.
I said something along the lines of I said something catty back. I said something like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to WhatsApp my friends. There's this new thing called WhatsApp. Have you heard of it? And like I said some shit like that back to her when she asked me if I knew what Venmo was. But yeah, I was like, dude, how old do you think I am? And when you're in college, anything over like 23 is like a dinosaur, like an adult.
I know. I know. And your brain, and you mentioned this like probably 2.5 hours ago, about your brain clicking in like in your late 20s. Like I felt it. Like I felt my brain go, and I was like, oh, I was a dumbass. Like the last however long I've lived, that was Donata 1.0. Like you don't know me anymore. If you knew me then, like you, like new version has been released.
Oh my God. No, it took me till I was like 28 for that to happen. That's a long time. I was
probably late. Like I had my life together, like on the surface, but I don't think my brain clicked in until a little bit later, probably like 27, 28. And then I was like a real person. I was already married by this point. Here's how I know I wasn't a real person then, right? I graduated law school, took the bar exam, started a new job, a 6-figure job. That was a big deal. Started a new job and got married. All moved to New York City all within 12 months. Like that wasn't a crazy series of things to do all at the same fucking time. Like that's how I know I was stupid.
Oh, you weren't thinking ahead at all. Like,
no, I was, and I was just like, yeah, that's fine. Add it to the list. Like I'll just get married, plan a wedding, start a new job, take the bar exam, move halfway across the East Coast, and it'll all be fine.
You were living in the moment, baby. You were present.
I was just thinking it was going to be okay, and I had endless, boundless energy, and all things were going to work out in my favor. Like, what? I was so dumb. I mean, it did all work out, but like, I would never think that was a good idea now.
But isn't that the whole thing about the meditations and all the gamma, beta, theta waves and all that? Is like to get back to that childlike state of like present moment in the presence.
I could just do all things. I call that version of me crack Donata.
Or Donata 2.0?
No, Donata 1.0. Donata 1.0, close to the transition, was crack Donata.
Why crack?
Because she was capable of doing a lot of things with very little sleep.
Doing a lot of things that probably not as well as you think you were doing them.
I don't know. I was doing pretty good.
I
mean, I started a whole business while I was a lawyer.
That is true.
I went viral as a blogger while I was a lawyer.
That is, I saw someone say something like, you need 8 hours of sleep or whatever. And then he said, like, by the way, you only have like 80% sleep efficiency if you're a good sleeper. So that means you actually need to get like 9 or 10 hours.
I feel best on 9, yeah.
And it's like, not only that, like the moment you walk into your room does not count. Like, I walk into my bedroom I walk into my bedroom at 10 p.m. so I can get up at 6. It's like, no, dude, you're not going to sleep till like 11. And like, I don't know. It's just like that calculation is a little bit skewed, but it's apparently very important, especially as you get,
older. That's why old people are boring to the young peoples, because we've realized all these things. Our brains have clicked in and we realize we need to actually sleep.
Clicked in. I was going to say, I like that.
I didn't come up with that either. I heard that on the internet and I forget who said it, but I really resonated with that. I was like, oh yeah, it locked. It like clicked. My brain was like there and then it like set, it clicked in.
Dude, that's cool, man. That's cool. All right, so we went I think we were closing in on 3 hours, and I said let's end this thing. So now we're at 3 hours and 20. So anyway, I'm glad you came. I had a good time. I think people will like pieces of this. Maybe not so much
heavy editing.
But no, I'm glad to have you as so I had my first episode was with Braddock, but you're my first on the new Kyle Milligan Show YouTube channel. So you're
the first episode.
All right, perfect. Okay, thanks. All right. I don't know how to stop. Peace out, Copy Squad.
Peace out, Copy Squad. See you soon. Bye.
Do we say Copy Squad? We say Kyle Milligan Show Squad.
Peace out, Kyle Milligan Show fans. See you next time.
We'll work on that. Put that through your label creator, your phrases.
My little phrase creator. It's in the ear. It'll come out the other one with something cool.
All right, cool. For real though, I'm out. Thanks, Donata. Goodbye. Love you.
See you guys. Thanks for having me. Love you too.
Bye.